coming. This is the Historic District Review Board regular session for May 21st, 2019. Can I have a call to order, please? Roll call.
Bianca here.
Edward, aye.
Susan Item.
Gary Shackelford.
Can we take a moment of silence, please, and the pledge of allegiance? I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we need to have an approval of the agenda format. Does somebody have a motion for that?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda format.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We need a motion to approve the minutes.
Motion to approve.
Before we vote on that, I have one remark. Item J, on April 16th minutes, to approve the certificate of appropriateness for 542 Madison Avenue for the construction of screened-in porch. It states that the board approves the certificate for construction of a screened-in front porch and a side stoop on the existing single-family dwelling as presented with the exclusion of a screen. I would like to correct, it's a little ambiguous. The intention of the decision was to approve construction of the front porch and a side stoop on the existing single-family dwelling as presented with the exclusion of the screen. So that's eliminating the word screened in.
Madam Chair, the way that we can't,
Because that's the way it was written in the first motion.
because that's the way it's.
So just to clarify, the decision was to approve the porch without a screen. Can I have a motion for approval of the minutes?
Motion to approve. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
I'm abstaining.
Okay. Okay, we have a lot of people out here who want to talk. We're going to have to set a timer for 3 minutes and we're going to have to adhere to it. Any public comments?
Okay, the first one, I have Jim Granger, 315 Harbor. He's here to speak on 524 Jefferson.
Should I present am I presenting my whole thing right now?
This is your 3 minutes for
So
public
these are
comment.
public
Okay,
comments.
then I don't need to speak on that.
Anybody else?
I have Paul Grossman.
Paul Grossman, 506 Randolph. Just a couple comments. First, welcome to the new members. Really appreciate you stepping up and taking on the responsibilities here. Thank you for your time and expertise here. An information item, Town Council last meeting adopted the motion to send to Planning Commission the expansion of the board to 7 members. I think you may have heard that before. 7 members, with one of them being Town Council representative. Another item I had, when I went through the material in today's agenda, I saw 2 applicants required zoning variances. And in my mind, my opinion, zoning variances should be approved first and then come to this board. All right, so that's just something that I will offer up for future agendas. And the last thing I had was, I've been attending these meetings for the last 2+ years on a pretty religious basis. And I'm a proponent for consistency. So, and there's been issues over the past 2 years that I felt that weren't as consistent, and maybe because of the makeup of the members of the board and who attended on a particular given meeting. But what I offer is to ensure consistency, is to provide a more descriptive or definitive written description on some of your issues, and I offer you starting with vinyl and chimneys. If I go back in the records, I'm going to see board approvals on different variations along the way. And you can say, yes, I'm a new board starting out afresh, and I'll say that's not going to be enough. In my mind, you need to write it down such that all future meetings can revert to those written statements as to what the board is expecting from the various applicants. That's all I have. Thank you.
David Cobb,
Decline.
Mary Cree,
Good evening, board. Town planner, thank you for letting me to speak on, I'm actually speaking on two separate issues. One is for Mr. and Mrs. Granger's modification to their existing application. So I submitted a letter, but I'd just like to read it in the record. So again, thank you for the opportunity to comment on the modification of the original application from Mr. and Mrs. Granger, adding screening to the existing porch for the above reference property, 524 Jefferson Avenue. As a resident of Cape Charles, I'm in favor of this modification to the original application and ask the board to approve this modification as requested. As I see it, this modification would be in keeping with outdoor and neighborly lifestyle enjoyed by so many of our town's residents and guests. And as someone who suffers from reactions due to a single mosquito bite, I know a screened-in porch is the only real deterrent solution against mosquitoes most evenings here in town during our summer and fall months, which is when we're outside enjoying our porches. I think the benefits and enjoyment that this simple modification would provide to these residents is huge. It's the difference between being comfortable or not, or the difference of being outside or not. We've all experienced wanting to stay outside, but simply can't take the bug pressure anymore, pack it up and go inside. I personally would rather see my friends out on their screened-in porch, enjoying life, versus not outside on such nights. Please give this modification to the original application your approval, and thanks for your consideration on this matter.
Thank you. What, 50 seconds?
50 seconds is 209 Parsons Building is being converted into something that's really exciting, that's really going to serve this town well and offer a lot of diversity. And I think it's going to be more in keeping with the Historic Review Board than probably any other kind of plan that's been submitted. So love to hear y'all's comment back and forth on that. Thank you for letting me speak.
Renata S.
That's me.
Can you please state your full name and address for the record?
The address regarding my question,
You're right.
I'm Renata Shepherd, and I'm from 301 Mason Avenue, Lemon Tree Gallery and Studio, home of Experimental Film Virginia. I'm here to let you know, in a very humble way, that we might have to do something a little bit backwards. We have been in discussion about a mural that I got approved for in 2017 from the Virginia Tourism Corporation. Well, it wasn't approval for a mural originally, it was approval for a love sign. But I understand that the town, my dog's very excited about this, you'll have to forgive me. The town wasn't too excited about having another love sign, so after much discussion and waiting, I've been working with the Virginia Tourism Corporation Representative Stacy Martin and presenting to the town on several occasions, and we've come up with the idea to do a mural, which, as you may know or not know, is becoming a very popular thing in Virginia Beach and Norfolk, and I think it's a very smart move for us to also jump on the mural bandwagon and join that identity for this region. So I move forward because I have an artist coming from Berlin who's also making a film at Experimental Film Virginia. And because she's an incredible artist and does murals, I thought this is our really, really great serendipitous solution. And started moving forward with that. Of course, the time is short. This has all happened just kind of quickly, and sometimes you just have to harness things as they happen. And it doesn't always follow suit with the timeline of when the review board will meet, because you are asking for submissions by June 2nd and reviewing things on June 18th, but she has to paint between June 12 and 16 so that we can launch this love sign mural. We have the Senator, we have the Linda Lewis coming, and we have people ready to make a big deal out of it to kick off Experimental Film Virginia. Long story short, I was told to discuss with Zach. We had several discussions, but it didn't come out until last week, for one reason or another, that we actually have to do this formal presentation. I thought it would be an informal dialogue with a proposal. So after speaking with Larry DeRay, he said that if we were to paint, well, first of all, the side of the lemon tree where we would like to paint the mural, although it's original brick, it's one exposed, untouched area that there's stucco all around it. The stucco is not original. I don't know why that little patch is not touched at this moment. I don't know if it was touched at some point with stucco and it's fallen off. The whole facade of stucco is going to be redone. So we have two options. We're willing to paint on that exposed brick Strawberry Street facing stucco. So we're not going to change the, we're not going to change the front of it. I have to tell you this so that we can move forward. I want you to know what we're doing, and we're going to submit a proposal retroactively. But I want to know from you if you prefer one of two options. If we paint on this exposed brick on Strawberry Street and then make the proposal and hopefully you approve it and we can keep it, and then we're going to be redoing the facade of Lemon Tree anyway, which is not original, or we paint on the Historic Palace Theater, which, as Larry pointed out, is not original because it's painted on. So if you can somehow get back to me and let me know which you prefer, we can move forward with that, and I'm happy to submit the proposal and hopefully retroactively let it all have all the checks and balances crossed. The board will consider. Okay, thank you. So he told me to come and present this, and hopefully Zach, we can all collaborate and make this happen because it's a huge opportunity. Okay, you get a mural painted and you don't have to pay for it. Okay, thanks. So I'll submit and we'll be in discussion. Thank you.
I had a couple emails that need to be read into record. This is from Trina Bever. This is, hello, I would like to address the issue of a spring porch on the front of the new home being built by the Grangers, Jefferson Street. I hope the board will strongly consider their request. 1, the building has been a beautiful addition to the neighborhood. 2, there are other homes with screen porches. May I add that the screening that is used now can hardly be seen. 3, the Grangers have done everything to follow all recommendations of the board to approve the property. 4, the home is well within all required building codes. 5, I fully support the need for the screen. I feel the board needs to welcome the people that support the character of the community and the charm that we as citizens want to continue to give Charles. Thank you, Trina Bever, Coldwell Banker, Harbor Realty, 205 Mason Avenue. We have another one. District Review Board, we are emailing to support the approval of a screened porch at the new home of Ken and Granger at 524 Jefferson Avenue. Not only is fitting with the original historic homes in town, there are at least 5 existing homes within a few blocks with screen porches. There's also a newer home at 628 Washington Avenue with a screen porch. Thank you in advance for your approval of this addition to their beautiful home. Thank you, Betty and Mike Hall. And that is all I have to submit comments.
Any more public comments?
There are none.
We have unfinished business. We have to do election of officers. We've had some resignations. I've been acting as vice chair, and I sit here tonight as acting chair. In my capacity, I ask the board if there are any nominations for chair and vice chair for this board.
I'll make a nomination that we, or a motion of nominating for the chair position.
I nominate Carrie for the vice chair position.
Okay, so Ed is nominating Carrie for the vice chair position.
I'll
So we
second.
have a second. Thank you. Diane, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion is carried. Okay, application for certificate of appropriateness to replace aluminum siding with vinyl siding on an existing single-family dwelling at 217 Jefferson Avenue. The applicant present?
We're gonna take the aluminum siding off and put the vinyl siding on. As last we talked, it was, we could only use a 5-inch. And so according to, Article 3, Section 216, it looks like we could use a vinyl siding or permitted as long as the type board is no wider than 5 inches.
And we're referring to Article 3, 2.6 in the code, town code.
Town code.
Right. Did you have an opportunity to review Article 8, the historic district guidelines?
I did.
For the record, Section 8.1, the beginning of the historic guidelines says, the purpose of this district is to provide for protection against destruction or encroachment upon historic areas, buildings, monuments, or other features or buildings and structures of recognized architectural significance which contribute or will contribute to the cultural, social, economic, political, artistic, or architectural heritage of the town of Cape Charles, the Commonwealth of Virginia. It is the purpose of this district to preserve the designated historic areas and historic landmarks and other historic or architectural features. So when you came last time to the board, we had some question about what are the historic architectural features of your house under the aluminum siding? And you were unsure. You said your contractor had some comments that there was nothing under your aluminum siding. And that still remains a question because as we review the historic guideline on page 54, for materials for homes, we go by the guideline that we have. And that says wood, unless rotted beyond repair, always retain wood as the dominant framing, cladding, and decorative material for a Cape Charles historic building. So I think we have some questions. I don't believe we're in a position necessarily to make a determination at this time and place on a vinyl siding material until we can clarify what's underneath your aluminum
Okay,
siding.
I can tell you, we put a new porch on the front, added an addition and a sunroom on the back, and it was all aluminum siding. No, that's
Perhaps a suggestion, why don't you take off a section of the aluminum siding and let's see what's there, because the guidelines are pretty clear that if there is wood under it, you can retain the aluminum siding that's there, but you can't change that and put something else. If you take the aluminum siding off, you have to keep the wood.
Okay, so what I'm asking is, you suggested last time that we go with black board, hardy board.
That's okay if there's not original siding underneath.
But that's what she just did.
Well, that was under, yes, we did, because you had said your contractor confirmed that there was nothing under your aluminum siding. But we don't have any documentation for that. We need to see. We need a statement from, according to the guidelines, we need to have, if there is wood siding under there, in order to replace it, the guidelines say that a licensed engineer would have to certify that the wood was irreparable. If there is wood siding and it's in repairable condition, the guidelines say that it needs to be retained. If there is no siding under there at all, then we have the discussion about what type of cladding can go there. And again, we have to go by the guidelines. I don't know, does anybody have more comments or suggestions?
Do you know what year the house was built?
I'm thinking it was built in the thirties, I'm not sure.
When you look at the windows look like they're buried in the aluminum siding that's there now. In other words, they sit too far in. So
Recess.
that's what makes me think there's original siding under there. I don't know, none of us know, I guess, until you take some.
We replaced the windows quite a few years ago, and it's probably this much space between the house and the outside of the window. We had to put a trim around it to make up that space.
But again, that would indicate to me that there's a depth of siding on the outside, including the aluminum.
I think they did that because the aluminum was so thick.
Right, that's what I'm saying. So you've got original siding, which the window would have been in the right position, then the aluminum's added on top of that, which made the window buried deeper in the wall. So, I mean, I think that, to me, the short answer is take off a section and see what you have.
And then,
Then, if you have original siding, the guidelines are pretty clear, it has to be repaired and reworked. If you don't have original siding, I think the guidelines say you can return with what you want to put on it. I think the guidelines, if I interpret that correctly, say you can use hardy plank, but you'd have to come back with that.
So it sounds like we may need to defer a decision on this until we know for certain what's under there.
okay, a question I have is, what we have replaced, there was no boards on the building. Because we had to take off the whole front up to where the porch was. On the back of the house, it went up to the first floor, and there was nothing on the back because we went across the whole back of the building. Of course, we put line on it, now we got to
Is that in the photos?
Yeah, you should have, oh, when we tore it apart, or man,
When you tore it apart.
yeah. No,
I mean, ultimately, what we're trying to do is follow the guidelines, and the guidelines want and really mandate us to preserve the fabric of the original building. And so, if there's original material under there, we want you to preserve that. So that's all. I think the easy answer is you take some off and see what's there.
okay, another question, wait,
Well, you're saying the work that you did previously on the
Right.
front and the back,
right,
you removed aluminum siding that was there at that time?
right, and the only thing
And
is there was boards in
and
there.
exposed what was behind it?
Yeah,
And what was then behind
it
that?
was just boards that run this way.
Like sheathing or old?
Yeah, it was just like 5 to 6 inch sheathing.
So you did not expose the framing, the wood framing to the wall? You exposed some?
That was the only thing that was on the wall, behind the bottom side,
On your front porch elevation.
and the back.
I would suggest one of the side elevations where you haven't removed siding in the past, and then bring us pictures. We'll defer until the next meeting when we can do that. And if you don't have original siding under those sections, then you, at that time, I would go ahead and bring your proposal for whatever other siding that fits in the guidelines, which I think the guidelines would give you wood or hardy plank. I think those are the two options.
So do we have a motion on the table?
I motion that we defer until we see those results.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So what do I have to do? Take pictures?
Remove a section of siding from the elevation where you haven't done work in the past. Take a picture of what is there, and then you can come back to the meeting on, what date is the next meeting?
June
June 18th.
You could invite a member of the board. Jen.
Yeah,
If you would
yeah, I
like.
think,
Can you do that?
yeah.
And we'll bring the
Or
planner can
one
come
of us.
out, the planner.
And then come back with what you, if you don't have original siding there, come back with what you want to propose to go under there. But I would sort of advise you to read the guidelines for what you can. I think you'll find the guidelines say wood or hardy. Those are the two options.
if it's got wood on it, can then replace it with hardy plank?
Not if it's original material.
Unless
Pardon me?
it's unsaleable.
Right.
Right.
Yes, what I'm concerned about is my next door neighbor paints her house every 2 years. That's $6,000 every 2 years that she paints her house. And that's a remarkable amount of money compared to what we want to put on the house. And it's a bind if you retire.
I'm not unsympathetic to that, but the guidelines are written, our obligation is to follow those guidelines. But I would also suggest if somebody's painting every 2 years, you can get it in the because a good quality paint job should hold up at least 7 to 10 years.
We have a motion and a second and a decision to defer. We thank you for your time.
Thank you.
To move forward. Application for certificate of appropriateness to construct a new single-family dwelling, tax map parcel number A3A1-1-96 Washington Avenue. Is the applicant present?
What's the name? I don't know.
96 Washington Avenue.
96 Washington Avenue?
That's you.
Is that me? Thank you. Sean Ingram, Charter, Virginia. You guys have the floor.
I think you want to tell us what you have proposed to do.
Oh, the packet. It's a totally new structure. Party siding, shingle roof.
I'm looking at the elevations in your packet. I have questions about elevations and questions about materials.
Okay.
And
If I may, I'll address these, one of the elevation issues I see.
please,
Looking at the front elevation drawing, I'm seeing the full width porch, which is good, and it appears to be a 3-bay porch, that is 3 spaces between posts. But it also appears that one of the spaces or bays is dimensionally less than the other 2. And the more consistent traditional arrangement is an equal 3-bay or 3-space front porch,
Okay.
with the entrance door and steps, in this case, would be centered in the right-hand bay, but the right-hand bay would be dimensionally less than what is drawn.
So you'd like to redraw the front porch?
A combination of adjusting the front porch and the location of the door and the windows on the front elevation. Because, in my opinion, the appropriate historic traditional basis for what the front overall would look like is the 3-bay porch with the entrance door and steps centered on the right-hand bay, a single window centered in each of the 2 remaining bays on the first floor at the front porch, and then a single window centered above the entrance door and each of the other 2 first floor windows. Now,
Well, that's quite a change.
adjusting the arrangement, adjusting the location of windows may or may not have an impact on what's happening internally as far as the internal arrangement of spaces.
Well, I'm just sure it would. I mean, you're remodeling a house.
one of the questions I had is,
Mm-hmm.
do you have detailed plans and elevations other than this that have more detail to them? With
This is
architectural notes and details for specifications?
Such as?
Because the front elevation looks like you have 2 different materials, and I can't tell if you're trying to depict a balcony above there, because
I'm
the
sorry,
difference.
I just have to look at your front elevation and I don't see a balcony on the front elevation.
What is this?
It's a roof over the front porch.
That's the shed roof.
Okay, that's the shed roof.
Does the door have glass panels?
It's a solid door with a transom. Yeah, it's just a little foggy on your end. It's easier to see there.
It's a solid door with a glass transom above that.
Yeah.
Typically, when we look at plans, like some of the other plans on the agenda tonight, we see more detail.
Oh, I've actually never had this sort of view get into design on the front porch like that before, so I'm not used to that.
This has to do with relating it to residents within the historic district. Doesn't have to do just with architectural design.
In the last page of your, it depicts your materials,
Okay.
materials list. That list.
Okay.
I think it would be helpful to this board to be consistent to all applicants if we had standards for.
Do you have a
application
form I can
process.
fill out to reference the required information?
We would like to see complete architectural plans and renderings
Uh-huh.
with the architectural notes detailed and called out from the drawing in a standard format. That's
Okay.
one issue. Why we would possibly recommend to defer this application. The other is, as we referred to in the last application, the materials you're listing are the vinyl and the AZEK trim and so on, and the AZEK porch. And this board has been pretty diligent in reviewing in detail what the guidelines are, and would like to stick with that. So, I think we.
So what information is missing? I'm a little confused.
Please.
Sure.
I think what you might want to do is, for example, on the front porch,
Mhm.
is not necessarily picking on the front porch, but you went to the front porch and you said what the posts are, what the details for the posts, what the handrails are going to be, what the details for those handrails are going to be. In other words, so we could see a section with the handrails.
Okay, well, I can tell you the post we fiber cast, that's a
I think we
symmetric.
want them, here's the reason, bear with me. The reason we want them on the drawing in written format is so that we can make sure that as we move forward, that what's put into the board, that this is what's going to be, that's what it turns out to be.
Okay,
So I think that's what we want.
okay. Anything else?
That's what we're asking.
Should we redraw this front porch? You have specific guidelines for where the door needs to be?
Well, let me continue so that if that's okay. So I would say that any exterior element, windows, doors, porch columns, siding, anything that's visible from the outside, you need to have detail, not just.
Because the only thing I'm missing in my materials is because it says AZEK porch flooring and AZEK railing.
But there are myriad of different kinds of that product.
No, there's only one AZEK porch flooring. It's a tongue and groove porch floor. There are different colors, but there's only one.
Well, so I think you want to detail exactly that. You also want to tell us which way the porch flooring is laid, because it's an exterior element. Is it running parallel with the house, or is it running parallel with the house?
It runs at right angles to the house.
Okay. So it's running front to back.
Correct.
Okay. So those kinds of details, I think, need to be on the drawings.
Okay.
So that we can just make sure, again, that what we're doing is trying to make sure that we follow the guidelines, and the guidelines are very specific about those kinds of elements.
Okay.
Just to give you an example, I think the guidelines would not be in favor of the transoms over the two windows you have on the porch. But we don't really have detail of that or have a trim work.
So are you saying you would not approve the transom to the front window, or you would?
I think we need to see a detail of it, and then before we can say that. These are kind of big picture drawings, and we need to see the details.
Okay.
This is just an example, but in the guidelines, this is what you call a drawing, you see?
Okay.
And on an architectural plan, each one of these elements would be called out on your plan, numbered
Frame.
and
Well, right.
noted to say
Well,
there's
that's
a
all windows
lintel.
have a frame.
No, you would want to say, if it has a lintel, you would want to say what the frame material is. Is it a vinyl?
Says that. Says that.
Well,
So-
the frame is fine.
The frame is a composite.
Exactly.
They actually don't even tell you, the actual window is a Marvin Integrity window. It's a fiberglass extruded composite. They kind of tell you the secret formula to it, but that's,
Well, but that needs to
You
be.
need the manufacturer specification sheet, or you need to say what the material is, not the trade name.
oh, I'm highly prepared then.
Okay.
While we are on the window subject, I'd like to take just a moment to discuss one window detail.
Can't hear. Speak up, please. They can't hear you.
Looking at page 39 in the guidelines, if you just add that. All right. The left drawing of a window is a 6/1 window with muttons in the top sash. The mutton is what creates the divided
The
line.
divided lane.
And the traditional mutton projected outside and inside the glass surfaces.
It's called simulated divided line.
And it was with a profile. The current manufacturers are offering two options.
Right, GBT, simulated divided line. Grill between the glass.
The flat grill and the space between the two sheets of glass.
Correct.
Like a temporary window, or the simulated divided light window, the SDL. The SDL window includes the detail of grills on both the outside and the inside of the glass surfaces.
And the muttons stand proud of the
And
glass.
it's profile as opposed to the flat grill in the airspace, which has no profile, has no projection outside the glass. And when light shines on the glass surface, the reflections actually obscure the grill. So my opinion is the SDL type window product is the most appropriate to represent the traditional detail in the industry. However, the SDL product costs more. And so sometimes people are concerned about that aspect of it.
I would reference all the time. They're always concerned about cost.
Well, that's true.
That is very true.
So do we, it sounds like we can't make a decision today because some things might need to be reworked here.
Did we, pardon me, did we stick to the height of the building? Are we okay with that?
We don't have detail, we don't
We
have
don't know enough.
detailed
There's
plans.
measurements right here. I mean, there's measurements right on these plans. Your photocopies are on clear, but there's measurements on the plan.
It doesn't tell us how high the roof is, which is the total height of the building.
Is it? Okay.
For a pitch, figure it out.
Yeah, half the distance is, that's in the, yeah.
Understand we're seeking to have some uniformity.
Right, I've been in historic
All
review for like,
applicants.
a dozen years. I've never been, had somebody rework the front door and the front porch before. So, I mean, if you guys, have a requirement or have a specific way you want this front door or this front porch laid out, I'll need to know that, because without that, I'm simply guessing and telling homeowners to pay an architect to redraw this and hoping that when I come back that you guys like it.
Well, I think the overall guiding factor is what it says in the guidelines. So if you follow what it says in the guidelines,
Well, first and foremost, they're guidelines, and the guidelines specifically say within the guidelines that they are guides, they are not laws that are specified. Secondly, these people have a, house run. If you guys don't like, if there's a personal dislike for the placement of the front porch
Nobody's
problem,
personal at
That's-
all.
well, he said, in my opinion, so that would actually be a personal preference.
I think, well, I'm not going to speak for what,
We need to vote on this application as it's written at this time. Do we have a motion on this application as it's written at this time?
I move the application be deferred to allow the applicant to provide additional information we discussed.
Can you be specific?
Be specific.
It's making a motion to defer to allow the applicant to modify based on materials and specified plans. Is that what you're trying to say? Can you
Yes,
say it?
That's fine, okay. The applicant resubmits the
Can you please in the motion reference the front, how you want the front to look, so that I can clarify that.
We can't do the design for you. We can
You are doing the design.
refer refer you.
By proxy, you are.
We're referring you to the guidelines.
The guidelines,
It's informing
okay, fair enough, fair enough.
board's
We'll take you guys with this.
interpretation of your plan.
Okay.
Just generally keep in mind the basis for the guidelines is to recognize the existing architectural.
Right, it's a guide, guidelines, that's guide, so
That's right.
utilizing the guide, the materials used are to be in consistency with the surrounding structures and general design aspects. I've read this before. I've never gotten so specific as to number of posts and placement and a window design or door design.
The purpose of this board is to preserve the historic district. And so we use the guidelines to try and do that. I'm not trying to pass our opinion on your
Well, he
design.
said, in my opinion, if I tell you, in my opinion, this hamburger is awful, and then I say,
His
but I'm not
opinion is
trying
not
to
in the-
impose my opinion on you.
His opinion is not in the motion.
This
Okay, very well.
We have a motion on the table to defer this application, so the applicant might resubmit with detailed plans, detailed notes, calling out specific materials that are in accordance with the guidelines as they are written now.
Very well.
Is that your motion?
That's right.
Okay, does somebody second that motion?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I think I might be next, so I'll just stay away for a second. Yeah. All right?
Yeah.
He doesn't not like this one at all.
Okay. Application for certificate of appropriateness to construct a one-story accessory structure at 602 Tazewell Avenue. Are you the applicant? Are you speaking for the applicant?
Yes.
One question, is this one that has to get zoning approval before? Okay.
Could you please say your name again? and
Sorry,
your
I'm trying to
for
sing
this
it.
application? Thank you.
Yeah, and if you have a photocopy of this drawing, you really need to tip off stuff. This is the owner's architectural drawing.
Do you have a picture of the carriage style garage door?
No,
Because this doesn't
yeah,
show anything.
no, it doesn't. I have very little to do with this application, to be honest. I'm simply filling in, and like I said, in the past, I've never had a question about it, this door design, so just highly prepared for that.
So this is the homeowner's drawing sketch?
It is.
Okay.
I don't think there's anything wrong with the sketch, it just doesn't give us enough detail.
Well, that's my point,
It's
right?
sort of the same question.
Right, that's, I knew that was coming.
I would make one additional comment about the deck.
The deck's existing.
The deck is existing.
Yeah, the application is simply for the accessory dwelling.
This is the deck on the back of the house already. It's a corner, it's on the corner, so it is visual. But I think we've been down all the reasons.
Yeah.
So do we have a motion on the table regarding this application?
I make a motion that we defer the application until we have further information from the applicant on the details of the construction.
So motion on the table to defer the
When you say
application.
details of construction, you mean materials also?
Yeah, materials,
Okay.
details on windows, doors, siding, all that stuff.
And we have a motion on the table to defer the application until the applicant can bring more detailed drawings, specifications, and detailed materials list. Is that correct, Harry?
Yes.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion is carried.
Thank you.
Application for modification to certificate of appropriateness for windows on a new single-family dwelling at 619 Jefferson Avenue. The applicant here?
And I sent the information in to y'all. You should have the new, and the architect changed the verbiage on the plans, and basically last time y'all just told me to go from casement to double hunk, and that's what I did. Keeping appropriate with the neighbors. I didn't know casement wasn't a, yeah.
It is more in keeping with
Oh,
architectural
absolutely.
history to have
Yeah, I
double
understand
hung and
that.
divided like windows.
Yeah, I understand.
Did anybody have comments about the
question
curious.
about it was, are you doing all of these windows on the house in different places, or are you doing one of them?
Wait a minute, what are you talking about?
This is what I've got.
Right, they're in different places, and y'all
That's what I'm
have the
asking.
plans, yes, y'all have the plans. And also in the decorative areas, you last time, they already approved the decorative windows in the house, but these are my standard windows on the plans in the house.
So at one place in the house, you're gonna have this triple look?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. I'm sorry, I didn't know the question you were asking.
There's just the one window that there are 4 locations for, the others are. It's just one single window, there barely are 4 of those, but there's just one of all the rest.
Okay.
So the one window does repeat the 4 times.
Yes, yes, you are
Okay,
correct.
so these new windows that you're proposing, the material that it's made from,
I believe they are vinyl windows. Let's see here, let me see. I sent in the quote. I guess vinyl frame type.
It's a vinyl frame that has the flat grill pattern or clove. Which takes me back to my earlier comments.
as this has not been constructed yet, and you're not even at the point of putting windows in.
No,
We still have
we're
a
not,
long time to
yeah.
get this.
Yes, to get the window thing,
Get it
but
right, right?
he just, things just got started today, actually, with the water tap. It's so cheap. But if something is not to your satisfaction, please just let me write down exactly what I need, because I don't wanna, I don't wanna keep going without some
Is the
windows.
siding on this house, or is it? What's the siding?
Certainty, I think it's like a wood composite, the Certainty, I don't know. I'm sorry, my builder's not here.
We have a procedural issue, we're not sure about. It's at least I am, because you were approved conditionally
Yes,
with the only condition being.
Of the window,
So I'm not
right.
sure where we stand.
Right.
So our only,
And the style of the window is
Yeah.
what the board asked for.
Yes.
so
That's what
really
they
the only
want.
thing we can discuss with you is because you're already approved for everything.
Right.
So these windows do meet what we asked for. So
Okay.
on this application, on the modification of the windows, the vote is, the only vote we can ask for is a vote on approval of the windows. Do we have comments on the windows?
Then we have that basic question of an SDL versus a flat grill detail.
Do you understand?
I do understand
That's-
exactly what
that-
you're saying.
yeah, that-
Now, are these, looking at the price code, are these flat grills, is that what you're telling me, is
That's
that what
what-
you read?
Yeah, it
Well, then
says,
certainly,
it says you have 5/8 inch flat
Yes.
grill pattern called clone.
I see, so that's what you're talking about, is totally
That's
flat,
the
not yet.
detail.
And yes, no, certainly, if we could go with a contingency of me going with the raised grill on that. Now, that's just on the exterior, correct? Of course, yeah. But they would have it on the interior anyway.
Yeah, the windows are automatically made with
Uh-huh.
a grill on both sides.
On both sides.
So
Got it.
you have both the interior and the exterior representation of the traditional.
Right. And I understand what you're saying when you were speaking before, the division of light and so forth, and
So
so.
do you have a motion? As to the
It
approval
seems
of
the
the
applicant, it
application?
seems the applicant is in agreement, so yes, I move that this application be approved based on the use of SDL
Mhm.
type.
But it can be a vinyl window, correct, but it has to be the SDL.
At this point, this board gave you
Right.
approval last month
For that.
for that.
So I can go with a
So
vinyl
we asked you to change to a
SDL.
double hung sash window with a divided light, and that is what you brought us. But in keeping with the guidelines, see the raised windows.
All right, can we still move forward? Do I still need to come back next month? So I'm good
So
to
the
go as
motion
long
is
as I go with the
conditional
SDL.
approval on the double hung windows with the divided light with an SDL button. Is that the motion? Is there a
Okay.
second to that motion? Does the planner have a comment?
Just go through the motion again real quick, just to make it very clear from like an administrative standpoint.
Okay.
Just make it clear like what's different.
Okay. The application, the application is for replacing the windows on the original application last month, which were casement windows, to double hung windows with divided lights consistent with similar windows in the historic district. And the applicant has brought us double hung windows with divided lights consistent with other windows in the historic district. At that time, there was no discussion of material,
Correct.
and there was no condition at that time.
Correct.
And we cannot oppose it at this time. The motion is to approve this style window, double hung sash windows with divided lights, with the condition that they are SDL buttons.
Got it.
Is that clear, Mr. Planner?
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Thank you.
So I'm good to go and move
Good to
forward.
go.
Okay, thanks, Scott.
Application for a modification to certificate of appropriateness for the front windows and doors and removal of a third story on a new single-family dwelling. This is at the tax map, number A3A1-1-A2A and number A3A1-1-A3A Strawberry Street. Is the applicant here?
Yes.
Thank you.
My name is William May, representing Michael Vedder. And as you can see, I modified the drawings to take away the third floor appearance of that staircase area.
Well, it wasn't just to take away the appearance of it, it was to make it a
What?
true second,
True second story.
yes, not a 2.5 story.
Right.
Deborah Wells, the absent board member, he had a comment about unfinished business under section 5F. He was unsure if the third floor was removed.
Are you affirming that there is no third floor in
No
this
third
house?
So there's an elevated section.
Just for the staircase itself, to give access to that second floor below the roof line. Basically, that's on the
So it's
stair.
elevated above what is the remainder of the second floor.
Everything else is on the roof.
So you have three different elevations. You have a first floor, a second floor, and then a slightly elevated section.
No, there is no third floor. No third floor period. Took that away.
So on the second floor, there's no step up to another elevation.
Can you clear up for me, since this is my first meeting, what has been approved on this, if anything?
Well, this is a new elevation, this is a new drawing, so now we're addressing this elevation.
Okay. So we have nothing in the past that we need to keep.
We have to go on this elevation, this is the new elevation.
Okay, well, I have some questions about these big black squares. What are they?
Those are the floor, he's using a composite, a dark gray floor, and that's what they are. That's what he preferred to use along the face of the that deck in the front. Yes, ma'am.
It's a floor?
Yes, ma'am.
Is it wood?
It's a composite material, it's not a wood. And that's from the back of the deck.
Wait, so we've got columns here,
Yes, ma'am.
and
That's
the
a
columns
screen.
are closer to the house, and the deck comes out beyond the columns?
Well, actually, no, the deck, if you look at the floor plan, the actual deck runs along the edge here. Let's see. That's the same. Right here. See, this is screened in porch, which actually comes off the bedroom. This is the deck area you're looking at right here, and these are the three columns that you're looking at on that portion of the porch.
What she may be
Right
asking,
here.
that you
Well,
made.
so these, why
is
weren't
what-
these columns
What
here?
this indication below the deck or the porch floor is, what is happening below the porch floor there.
Yes.
That's where the AZAC is going, along the framework that will be installed there. The stairs.
It's a design element. I
Yes.
guess I'm wondering, why are the stairs not coming out from the front elevation and kind of,
They would protrude too far out into the yard if I did. They would come out past the entrance because of the way the house is set back on the front and as high as he wants to go with the house.
Do you have an elevation requirement there from the build zone?
Elevation requirement.
On the building, is that what the
No,
building is?
it's just his personal preference, Mr. Petter's personal preference. He wanted to go up 6 blocks high.
Well, right away, the guidelines don't allow for that.
Okay.
So, I mean, you're too high, you don't have a foundation material there that's in the listing doesn't call for wood foundation material. So you've got this foundation, you've sort of got cladding going all the way down to the frame, right?
That's going to be a masonry surface in the lower main portion of the house. The only part that will be the composite material is just around the decks. That's all. The rest of it's going to be a stuccoed cinder block, 8 by 8 by 16.
That will be 5 foot tall,
That'd be
6 feet
about
tall.
Pretty close to 5 feet with
5'10", it says.
are you making a full height basement under there?
no. He just wanted it for storage area underneath, for what he could use it for.
Can you let me ask you a question? I just may not be seeing something correctly here. Why does this look like it's stepping out there? Is that like a,
There's an offset right there in the front.
is that this right here?
Yep. That's where the porch steps back in, just a hair on both sides.
I think we're having a lot of questions because this is a design of a house that is not seen anywhere else in the historic district. And it's quite a departure in a number of respects. There are no stairs coming up the front elevation, which is pretty much indicative of the historic district. Even the dormers up top have shed roofs, not gable roofs. The height of it, the height of the foundation, these things are not consistent with the homes in the historic district. And really, like, if we go back, again, just for the purpose of consistency.
Okay.
You know, to read, again, the purpose, is, the purpose of the district is to preserve the designated historic areas and the historic landmark and other historic or architectural features. By inserting a house in the middle of our historic district that doesn't look like any of the others, we're not in compliance with the guidelines. It's a nice house. It probably would be very well suited to some other communities, but it doesn't suit the architectural overlay, the historic overlay.
Is there any reason why the house can't be set back further? So that the
No,
steps could
can't
come out
set
the
it-
front?
I can't set it back any further. We're actually, I already had to go through the zoning board in order to get approval to put the house where it is right now because of the, the setback requirement.
I think we've heard a number of concerns. We can only really vote on this elevation that's before us today. Does anybody have more questions before we ask for a motion?
So I think right now, most of our questions are related to the design elements of the house.
And the materials.
And so, just to go through those so that we want to try to help you be successful
Okay.
at these rather than coming and being.
Right.
And speak up if I'm misspeaking here, other board members. I think one of the issues that I would have with this, and I think the guidelines will, is vinyl siding, because the guidelines clearly say you can't have.
There's no vinyl siding on it.
He's noted hard.
It's got harding.
It's hardy siding on it and it has 6
But you're
inches.
using a vinyl composite on this.
That's on the deck base, that's not. on the
Still,
house.
it's on the plan,
Right.
so
Yeah.
we couldn't approve this plan with vinyl. So
And-
he's just
and
trying
you-
to tell you why.
Okay.
And even the hardy siding shows a 6-inch exposure, and it should be a maximum of 5 inches.
As the code is currently
As the R1 zone
Right.
allows.
Like a That's a 5-inch exposure on that?
Yes.
And then the metal wrapping on the exterior materials, that should be wood or hardy type material.
Okay.
The AZEC, we already talked about. The composite posts, the posts should be wood also. And the porch elevations, I mean, I think we've already talked about the issues with the stairs there, and then the overall sort of design of the building not being, if you look in the guidelines, it says new construction should use forms similar to those in the immediate vicinity, and in most cases, these should be a simple form. It's a very complex set of roof lines and angles and that sort of thing in comparison to the other simple forms.
So can you make a motion?
I'm-
Summarizing
okay.
all of that?
I make a motion that we defer, and that we're asking for a change in the design that more fits in the guidelines with the design of other buildings in the community, as it says in the guidelines. And that I think you want to call out the materials that are on the building. And it's unclear on the drawings until you said it was stucco or
Okay.
I wouldn't have guessed that, so you want to be sure you get all that material listed and on there, and that you'll be glad to approve those materials if it's within the guidelines. I don't think that's okay.
Does he need to come up with something other than the stucco?
He needs to be in compliance with the guidelines. It's clear what materials you can use.
Just state the materials that are being used, basically.
Yeah, I think so. If you review the guidelines, I think it does allow for the masonry
So
foundation
masonry, not
to have arms. I think it does allow for
Several of them are already built with that specific type of foundation, so hopefully it's going to improve. If not, we've got a lot of them out
So
there.
can you repeat your motion for clarity? I think I heard you say, I think we have a motion.
bear with us. We're like.
Did I hear you say that we have a motion on the table?
Yes, we have a motion to defer and
To resubmit new
to
plans that
resubmit new
reflect
plans that reflect the guidelines and detail all the materials,
in design style and materials.
in design style and materials.
Do you need to repeat that? Is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
New business. This board would like to, we need an appointment to the Harbor Review Board, of a member from the Historic District Review Board. We need to appoint a member of this board to the Harbor Review Board. Do we have any nominations?
I'm already on it.
You're already on it. Oh, that's what I'm reporting. I'm sorry. Is that right? I need some clarity. We have to
Yes.
approve it?
So you are making a recommendation to town council to place one of you on the Harbor Area Review Board as the Historic District Review Board representative.
Can I be the representative of both boards? The planning commission and this?
I am not sure about that. That's a good question.
No, because we need a certain amount of members on.
Oh, you're right,
Okay.
you're right.
Yeah, it's a numbers
We're down a
game.
member, we're down a member, that's correct.
Do we have a member currently serving?
And if I am a member of the Harbor Board, may I also be a representative of the
Sorry, let me restate this.
You cannot, because we need, a whole member is gone, a whole person is gone. So we need that board at full capacity.
thought that's.
What about us?
No names.
We have a body.
No happy.
So we have a member on this board who serves as the HDRB representative to the Harbor District Review Board, and we need to replace that position.
Yes.
So do we have a nomination? Or we would like to recommend to the town council to appoint who? From the
Well, we're out of
HDRB.
it, so it's between you two.
Well, it's not your decision.
Carrie, I would like to recommend that you be appointed to the Harbor.
Somebody has, I guess somebody has to make a motion.
And we're making a recommendation
Oh, we're making, okay.
to the town
I
council.
will.
All right.
Willing to serve. So,
Nothing,
Harry has indicated his willingness to serve. We will make our formal recommendation to the town council to approve Harry as the HDRB representative to the Harbor District Review Board. Is that correct? Please state
Yeah,
it.
just state it like you would, like we make a motion to recommend.
Okay, somebody needs to make that motion.
I'm Gary appointed as the Historic District Review Board representative to the Harbor Board.
There's a motion on the table for Terry to be appointed as the HDRB representative to the Harbor District Review Board. We make this recommendation
I'll
to the town
second.
council. There's a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you for your patience. Application for certificate of appropriateness to modify the exterior of a commercial building at 209 Mason Avenue. The applicant present?
Yes, ma'am.
My name is Dan Mayer, owner of the Parsons Building, and I've been one of the representatives from Luke Roman and Family Family Christians.
Excuse me, and we've also written about this also, and he's a new business item 6B. He would request more time to review. That's just what he wanted, bring to record.
But he didn't say why?
Could you repeat that?
Sure, I said Edward Wells, the missing member, submitted comments, and he submitted a comment on this, just saying that he said, I would request more time to review. All I do is read over the records.
We have other comments?
Is there a photo of the awning detail from the 1920s that's referenced in your application?
No, I mean, the picture that you can find is what I've seen up on the wall in the town, so if
I can tell you where there is one. You can go and get a copy of it in the historic, the museum down here. They have several books of photos. I was in there this weekend, coming through and happened to see it. So it's a very limited
Is
picture
it
of
the
the
flat?
show.
there's stuff to try and do shape.
I didn't look carefully at it, but it does show, I think, enough detail to show what you're looking at there.
This is a very commendable
Yes.
design for an adaptive reuse of a downtown historic building. It's very, very impressive. It's also very, very detailed and complex. And I guess I have a little respect for Ed saying, if we're going to serve properly, maybe we should give it time to really thoroughly come through it as a fully mounted board. I have a question. So this loggia is going to be the float between the facade, original facade and then the new facade behind it.
Yes,
And you're proposing removing the sash windows
yes,
from the front facade.
yes,
So that will just be open?
yes.
Do we have any, I guess this would be more of a planning and zoning question, but are we even allowed to have open windows with nothing there? What if people sit on the ledge and fall out?
That might be a building
Yeah.
related
We're
question.
really nothing just sitting on a handrail and.
On the window.
You're gonna have to have a handrail, I think is what we're saying.
Well, what
No,
if-
I think the window height is at the current height for a handrail.
Oh, you're saying that,
right here?
We're high
okay,
enough.
from the photo and the
Right.
drawings, it's not really clear that you have that step up.
From the interior photo submitted, it does appear that the sill of these windows is at least several feet above the
Yes.
floors, the
Yes.
existing floors, which has, however, the building code does, as a guardrail requirement, does require a minimum of 42 inches
Yes.
for a guardrail. Do you know specifically what the existing dimensions are from what would be the new loggia floor? to the sill?
That's a code, the window so height is at the code that we would have the handrails.
It's 42 inches.
Yes, sir.
So I guess the only thing this board can be concerned with is, if it isn't,
Yes,
that's not our purview, but if it
Right.
isn't,
yes,
something would need to be done
right.
on the face of the building, and we need to know what
Or
that
both,
will be.
inside the building, so that it
Or,
won't miss the
that's
fascia,
right.
because I'd like one to mess with the fascia of this building.
So long as it's visible, we would want to see it before, that's all, I think that's what we're saying.
And I have a question. If you're going to remove the windows and it's going to be open,
Yes.
is all the little, like the window trim that I see here and the piece that goes across, all that's gone?
Yes.
You're removing the frame.
Wait, the masonry
there's nothing-
frame is being removed?
No,
No,
just
just the window, but we'll have to trim it out.
Right.
I can't believe it
Have to
started.
trim it out.
But,
Will you be trimming those out in wood or some other
It'll
material?
work, it'll be work.
That's
We want to match this starting catch
the front elevation on the third floor, in the center bay, there's a center panel, white panel. Do you plan on removing that solid panel in that location for another opening? Or
I
leave
think
that?
that, this is the plywood protector now, there's no window, that'll come out.
Yeah, so there's an existing masonry opening there.
Yes.
And you-
There was, I'm assuming there was a window there in the past, and that window has to be
Yeah.
taken out.
So you are anticipating having that as a finished opening as well, I
Yes.
gather? Okay.
We're adding some windows to the side of the building.
Yes.
Walk us through what your materials and what you're planning to do with the storefronts. It says aluminum storefronts.
Right, so we're going to try and match as close as we can to what's there, but we've got to bear in mind that the window that's there now doesn't need coating.
What's that that doesn't need code?
Thermally, it doesn't need coating, it's probably an eighth of
But
an
it's
inch.
existing, it wouldn't have to need it if it's existing.
It's cracked, so we're going to have to replace it.
All of them?
They're not all cracked. But what we would like to do is we have 3 different entrances. 2 of the entrances are very department store, like where they are recessed very deep into the retail space. The third one is where the kayak company is closer to the road. And we were hoping to match all 3 of them so that we didn't have a different style. So in order to do that, I'm going to have to replace everything on the front side.
I think we'd be really opposed to that because the guidelines are very clear about maintaining the storefronts. You have a fantastic stained glass window up there.
I'm not talking about the above, I'm talking about the storefront itself.
Just these plate glass windows.
So you're going to retain the stained glass window.
Well, there's 3 different types of window up there, so somebody's replaced, I don't even know what the original
Well,
one was.
if you look at those photos that I was talking about, the stained glass window has always been there, and the 2 windows on the side, the 2 big transits.
And if we need to, you'll keep those.
Yeah.
I'm just going to replace the wood around them because they're bad.
And I think that would be fine within the guidelines, but I think changing the storefronts to the modern aluminum big storefronts, I think.
No, we're trying to find a thinner modular storefront type window. In fact, it's not a modern or whatever we can find to match as close as possible to the thin.
Have you worked with these storefronts before?
The ones that are
These
there,
old ones, yeah.
they're old brass storefronts that are open to very small.
These are actually, they're bronze. They're incredible when they're cleaned up. They look absolutely fabulous. I mean, I would encourage you to explore the idea of reusing them. Because when I looked at them, I could only find one cracked piece of glass. Maybe I might overlook something. But I would explore keeping that glass and reusing everything there, including the doors, because you're calling for taking the doors out too, right?
The door to the front of one of those spaces is so bad, I can't even do the work.
Well, the guidelines would call you for you to replace that in common.
That's fine, but I don't want to repair the one that's out. Repairing the one that's there now would be very possible.
Well, when we say in kind, it would be an exact replica of what's there.
That's fine.
So, okay.
Do you want to put that in?
Then the windows on the elevation on the top floor, I guess we call that the 3rd floor, the guidelines would call for you to restore those windows rather than replace them.
So the windows that are there now have been replaced by somebody else, and
The
they're
third floor windows, I think, are original.
You're not doing a lotion on the third floor?
just maybe like.
You are.
I may be getting my floors
Yeah,
mixed up there.
his plan is to also open
You're gonna take out all the windows on the
Yes.
first floor,
Yeah.
on the front facade?
on the
Yes.
second and third
He's
floor.
just taking the sashes, taking the sashes out.
Keep
He's
them-
leaving it open because it's a floating
I
facade.
mean,
in
I
fabric.
got that on the second floor, but I didn't realize you were doing it.
It's
on the third.
two-story. Yeah, look at the side elevation.
I think that's a problem. I mean, you aren't gonna have any windows on the front elevation.
They're gonna be openings, framed
Yeah.
openings.
I mean, I understand that.
I agree, and now, yeah, but it's only a one floor loggia.
No, it's two floors.
Well, two of the
Both
floors.
floors have lotion. All the upstairs.
The second and third floors have a
We're just taking the window out. I'm not reworking the architectural nature of the facade, but all the.
No, but part of the facade,
Is the
historically,
windows.
would have had traditional windows in it. So that's part of
If I was going to go down that road, I would have got a historic tax credit. I'm trying to make a better building than what's there now, and I'm trying to keep as close as I can to the architecture as it is now.
Here's one thought. The existing windows on both the second and third floors are a 1/1 configuration. If you open those loggias, in other words, if the windows are removed and you end up with a finished or a permanent opening in the wall, I can see in the summertime, if someone's out in the loggia with lights on, bugs are probably going to be coming in and bothering them. What about the possibility of replacing the windows that are there with a 1/1 screen panel? Screen.
I think I would prefer that as an option for somebody to put a screen down, but also the option to open up to the view. My understanding is that Hetfield is a Butch living community. I don't want to ask to have a balcony built on the front of this building because it's historically too attractive to be able to do that. And I'm trying to combine the Butch living community living by not having to do that, but still offering a porch by just merely removing that.
The way I read the guidelines, I'm not supposed to be replacing windows or doors for windows or sealing them up. And this design is intelligently consistent with the guideline.
Would you feel better if it had a frame so that it looked like a window, but?
That will be framed, well, there will be a wood
That's
frame.
right.
But I mean, even
With
with
the
the
consistent
horizontal piece
guideline
across.
now, were the originals, what were the originals? Were they 2/2s? Do you know what they were?
The windows that are, what's left of them right now, they're double hung.
They're 1/1s. The ones on the,
Always one
yeah,
over
I was in this building when it was for sale. The ones on the top floor are the original windows, and they're 1/1s. So the side windows were replaced years ago with something else, and the windows on the second floor have been largely replaced. I think there might be 2 of those that are original. But that's
So
the only
you're
issue.
saying that visually then from the street, the only thing that his design is going to change from what we see here is seeing this sash across the middle of the window.
And you're losing the fabric because you're losing the windows.
You're losing the glare, the shine, the reflection of the windows, all of that.
I would go even another step further and just say, why not just leave the sash in there and have them so they can open the window?
I'd rather not do that. I think the guidelines I'm trying to meet, I'm not exceeding it.
I think Mr. Rose's comment was well founded when he said we probably need a little bit more time to go through this thoroughly.
What is it you think we need to go through?
I think there is a debate at the table here about what is historically accurate. When it says retaining the windows, does that mean the sashes? Or does it just mean the rough opening? So I think we're divided on this board right now, and Mr. Wells has asked, and he is absent, to be part of that conversation. It's,
I think the guidelines would allow you to change window openings on this. I think the front facade is the most important facade.
I'm not changing the window. I'm not changing anything on the front of it.
You're not changing openings, but you're taking the windows out.
Yes.
Right.
That's
But
right.
the
I'm not-
guidelines
I'm not
would
replacing
require
it.
you to keep the windows.
Not just that's my design, and put it back in my project.
And
so
we're not insensitive to that, because I think you've heard from, and I think I support what's been said, this is largely a very good reuse of this building, and it's something I think I'm excited about seeing in town. But I think it needs to make sure it fits the guidelines, just like everybody else's building needs.
I understand, and if this takes away from the loggia opportunity, then it takes away from the porch living, and it takes away from the opportunity of this project fully. In which case, I would have to probably slow down for it, and I'd like not to do that.
Well, and we don't want you to either, so that's why we take the decision seriously enough to consider it further. So
And I'm sure you would like to see what's there now for the rest of the next 20 years. I mean, it's unsightly right now. I'm trying to make it better. I'm not impacting anything architecturally unsound.
So you feel like if you kept those window sashes,
It's going to impact my design.
it's a dead nail on the project.
I believe so, yes.
And the storefronts?
The storefronts are going to be difficult. I'm trying to make it consistent on the front. I'm not trying to change anything that's not.
But if it's inconsistent now, wouldn't we want to keep it inconsistent because that's the way it was built?
If you're lucky enough to have tenants in that space, and you've got some vacant space downstairs because it's not a very user-friendly space right now, I've been asked to add ADA units at the back of the building, which I've done. ADA condos at the back of the building, which I've done. By doing that, I've taken up quite a lot of retail space in the front. It's helped me financially with my project to have those ADA units, but it's also impacted the size of the retail spaces in the front by having these long entrances into those two spaces. If I could bring those forward to match what's there, that will help my case with some reasonable space. If not, it becomes an unusable space, and it becomes an unviable project for me.
we have a member in the audience who spoke to this application earlier. I don't want to open the floor up again to full public comments or debate, but if you have a specific piece of information you want to contribute that's beneficial for the board, you can hear it now for 1 minute.
Thank you. I just wanted to maybe join the applicant, Danny.
Can I do that? I'm advised that's not the procedure. Okay, I'm sorry. Again, I think this just illustrates why we do need to have more in-depth discussions. I think that your point of view is valid and there is information about the project that impacts the way this will be viewed from the street that can't just be determined from looking at this. I think we need to have more in-depth discussions about it.
And in what
A
form?
rush decision is not always a good decision.
So I'm going to need to know fairly soon. I know that we will meet once a month, and then it's another month after that before I can get started. I have demolition contractors coming in tomorrow to start taking away and opening the space ready for me to build. If I'm going to start spending money on a project that's not viable, that's not going to benefit me or the town. So, and I respectfully ask that you allow me to move forward.
In what form would you have this further discussion, a work session?
Is that possible?
I'm sorry, but I don't think.
Procedurally, we cannot comment or.
But I was joining him as an applicant. We worked on this project together from the inception of the purchase. So I'm not on a public, I'm more of something.
1 minute.
Thank you. So I just want to say,
Co-applicant has 1 minute.
thank you. I just want to, again, Eric Cree, 114 Pine. I just want to say from the very beginning, Danny Mayer's whole concept was not to change the facade, was to be in keeping. And when you look at Mason Avenue, when you look at the balconies, and you look at what has already set precedent, I think what he has done is quite the contrary to what has been set forth. And I think the historic, in losing the sashes, if there's a compromise where there's a sash gone versus the other buildings that have balconies, I think it's a great compromise for the quality that this project will bring and the honor that he's really stuck to as far as trying to not even venture outside of changing the facade. This has been his whole key aspect with this project and part of his love. So thank you for that.
I want to make sure I understand one thing you're saying. If you take the windows out, you're going to put wood around that, the opening. And if you put a piece of wood across that looked like a sash, that you would be unwilling to
If
do
it's
that?
just a piece of wood across there to make it look like a sash, I'm sure we can do something like that. But I don't want to put an old sash back in, the sash match was out there, put in the windows back. I do not want to take away from the opportunity of having a porch living place instead of building a balcony. I've seen some of the balconies that have been allowed to be built on Mason Avenue, which has surprised me a little bit. I'm trying not to go down that road. I want to honor the living style of this town, and I want to preserve the way that the building looks.
And that is what this board wants to. Yes. It is a big project, and it is a focal point of Mason Avenue.
Yes, ma'am.
And rushing to decision.
Well, then I'm going to have to stop it.
It's going to live there for a very long time. It is a largely wonderful readaptive use of the building. I think there are questions still about the guidelines and meeting the guidelines with respect to the storefront.
If I can respectfully ask a question, this was submitted 2 weeks ago for review, and I'm not sure what during that review time, if these questions don't come up.
The Historic District Review Board is a further scrutiny of what the planning department does. So a little bit more stringent guidelines to help if we look at Article 8 to preserve the historic district and its commercial district as well. So while it might meet code and all the planning requirements, as far as it meeting historic district review requirements, that's a little bit more stringent.
So my option right now is to put everything on hold until I hear back from the next month.
Fortunately, that's the
we haven't
procedure.
we don't have a motion to do that yet, so we're just talking.
It's a huge impact on me financially. This is I'm not a airport movement. It's got lots of money that can just put it on hold. This is everything that I have as an individual that I'm putting into this town. I've got a property on Randolph Avenue, and I like the town of Upton and bought this Parsons building. And I bought it knowing that I wanted to maintain it as close as possible to the historic appearance.
Can you speak to the storefront windows again? If this board had to make a decision tonight, I've heard it aired that there's a concern about the storefront windows being historically accurate. If you were to get permission tonight, conditional permission, could you bring elevations for historically accurate storefronts?
I think if I could be allowed to bring the entrances forward and not have the 2 of those entrances recessed back as far as they are, then I can use those, if I can find a way to use the mullions that are there, I will certainly try to do that.
So I'm wondering about losing the vestibules.
Is that what you're doing? You're completely doing away with the vestibule?
Making them match the vestibule that's there at the southeastern, on the western side of the building.
I'm sure I can see a plan in the first floor.
Mr. Planner, is this something that the board could convene a work session for?
You could.
And have the applicant present?
Do we, am I missing, or does somebody see a plan view of the first floor?
Yeah, there's a floor plan.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, is this existing? No. This is existing.
So our planner tells us it would be appropriate if we chose to have a work session on this project. It is front and center on Mason Avenue. And we have a board member that's requested to have more done. I concerns of the applicant that waiting a month for a full deferral could create hardship in the process.
If I may speak, it's still going to be a full month because you can't decide anything in work sessions. You can't discuss it. You can't make a motion of approval.
Thank you. Was it looking for this?
Yeah, we can see what the change is.
On the left is a reflected ceiling.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking
Plan
for.
is the one on the
Yeah,
right.
so that's what I'm looking for, so we don't have a drawing of it.
You're not seeing the existing area at all.
Yeah. So if you change the depth of the vestibules, you couldn't reuse those, that glazing, because all that glazing is made to fit that space.
Any more comments before we ask for a motion?
Well, I noticed that the staff analysis says the existing windows will have glass removed but will remain, quote, windows. The proportions of the windows and the ratio of walls to opening would remain the same as recommended on page 42 of the guidelines, which to me is saying that there is some relevance to what is proposed relative to the guidelines.
Yeah, the guidelines say that you can't really change windows and doors to different sizes or replace them with others. But this is really
Well, this is
being
neither.
a rough opening,
This is
not a
neither.
window.
Well, no, he's saying he's going to put a finished frame, as you would have with a window, which is simply not going to be glass and heat
Yeah,
deck.
that's the debate.
Yeah. And the opening size is not changing either, so the proportions are all the same.
Right.
Well, there's two things. One, the windows, and two, the storefronts.
The storefronts.
I think the windows we could determine tonight, but the storefronts, we just don't have enough information. Would photos, if we went on to the other people, and could we do that for him while he runs out and takes pictures or something? Take some measurements, I don't know, but we can't do that, okay?
I have a question for Tracy. Is there a possibility of a special meeting where they could vote?
They could. But we have to go through and
That's an option.
What would we have to do, I'm sorry?
We would convene a special meeting
And
instead of waiting for 30 days.
do we need to advertise it?
Yeah, no, well, it'll be advertised with the way we have through business days. I normally do it a week in advance. We have to get everything together. He needs time to be able to ask him to get, time to set the agendas and get down. And we have to make sure that there is a space available for us.
So what's the soonest that could happen?
That depends on
Well, let's say he can do his part.
probably 2 weeks, because we have meetings, probably weeks.
Okay, a question for the applicant. Have you projected your overall construction time for this project?
It's hard to do. With-
Just a general, at least.
If I can get this up, I've been working Catch-All is a little different to most other parts of the country, and I'm hopefully projecting that I'll have this completed by the early part of 2020.
Early part of 2020.
Yes.
Okay.
And I would like to, because I have potential tenants that need to move into the retail space by then. So the longer that I leave this, and then if this doesn't move forward, I need to let the people know that I'm not going to have this space available for them. So, and if this waits another month and then another month before I can start construction, they will be in a position that's hurtful to them. So
But this board can really only vote on the appropriateness of the application and way it fits into the historical district. Appreciate and sympathize with your concerns. Construction processes are frequently delayed for various reasons. It's important to do it properly and correct. See the process through from the get-go. It's a very important building, and I really appreciate all the respect you've made to it in the designs already. I think we do need to have a motion on the table and want to see that this one has to be what is consistent and appropriate with our guidelines and our process and our duty to the historic district.
Procedurally, it seems deferring until June 15th meeting may be our only option as far as our complying with the town's procedural requirements. What I was getting at a moment ago was, might there be a possibility of you coordinating the early stages of the construction work in such a way that you would not do anything at the front, at the Mason Street end of the building, so that perhaps there would be an opportunity for us to, you and us, to resolve that portion of it?
I could, if I can, I think if you can let me know that I can modify the depth of the entrances, that allow me to tell the tenants potentially that yes, I've at least got the space for them, I've got to do something different with the storefront.
And that's the biggest change. That is the change to the facade.
How much depth
That's
would
what
you
it
that
is.
changing?
Almost. Trying to bring it up to the same depth as what's on the, on
What's the
elevation.
difference?
That's it.
Yeah, what's the difference between what's there now and what it's going to do? See, we don't have a plan view showing us what was and what is.
There should be a plan view in there.
There doesn't seem to be an existing plan.
Yeah, that's what I'm getting at. It just shows us what you're proposing.
Yeah, it's just kind of a plan. It is about, I want to say 2 foot, like a hallway entrance that comes back towards the front, onto the spaces. In fact,
So right now, it's not.
there's 3 different entrance types to that building. There's the westernmost side has got a shallow entrance. The middle space is a little bit deeper in, and then the space on the easternmost side is even deeper and narrower still. That's where the side of the stair is to the entrance to the upper side. And I'm going to bring those 2 forward to match what's already existing on the western side. I'm not proposing to change. I'm not proposing to change. If I do, I'd like to change to the
That's still going to be there. It's just
I'm ready to make a motion if anyone wants to.
Go ahead.
I make a motion that we defer and ask the applicant to bring us planned views of the existing storefronts.
I have them in my car. If you'd like me to bring them to you right now.
They have to be reviewed. That's what you all. You can't introduce new elements to the application right now.
So continuing plan view of existing, plan view of new, detailing the type of storefront that you're requesting to do, changes to the storefront materials, all the material details related to that and any other exterior elements.
I think the list is there on the
It doesn't show us a section, whether it's going to be 12 inches wide or half-inch thick, but I think we want to see a detail of what that is. Then one of the questions, and including with that, the marble, the type of marble skirting, and shop drawings of the windows that you're proposing to use. That's my motion.
More awning for this.
Yes, I think we would also include that photo of the awnings and the type of material that you're planning to use.
If I when you run that, so right.
But understand, if you don't get that approved at this, you'd have to come back to get the others approved.
But that doesn't impact what I'm doing on the rest of the building. It's the rest of the building that's going to impact in a large way if I don't get some kind of improvement tonight.
Okay, so there is a motion on the table to defer the application at this time with a request that the applicant come back with planned views of the existing structure as it is and the new as it's planned, with detailed drawings and specifications for the storefront changes in design, materials, marble skirting, awnings, glazing. Did I cover everything?
Shops and windows, shop drawings and windows.
And shop drawings of the windows. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Oh, you didn't ask for discussion. Don't want any more discussion?
Do you want more discussion?
No, sorry.
The motion can hold. There's more discussion.
My question is, can he begin, or does he have to wait for our approval? That's the question.
I think.
Well, he's got to submit for a building permit, and then he's at risk. If he says that if we don't approve it, then his project's not a go. He's at risk if he does it.
Well, it is if the loggia concept goes away, then yes, the project goes away. The loggia concept is probably the focal point of this whole building. So if that goes away, it doesn't make any sense. If you have a town that is a porch balcony living town, and you're taking away my ability to do that. I'm not asking to build a porch on the building because that takes away completely from the historic look of the building. I'm asking to be uncertified, not doing anything different to the front other than moving the windows, which allows me to offer that. If that element for me goes away, this does not become a viable project for me.
I think I would do as I've suggested here, come back with some, you've heard our concerns about the complete removal of the windows and having nothing there but a square opening. So come back with a design that helps us to feel better about that in keeping in the
We
guidelines.
didn't include that in the motion.
I didn't, but I said bring back details.
But I'm not sure what you're asking me to do. You asked me to put a window back or not put a window back? Because if I put a window back, it takes away the loggia option for me. So I either don't have it or I do have it. It's as simple as that.
There's a motion on the table to defer the application to next month. The board is not going to make a decision tonight.
On the loggias or on all of it?
When the application is put forward.
We can't make a partial decision and defer the rest.
This is
If
too
somebody
big
wants
of
to
a
make that
project
motion.
and scale with too many interrelated parts, we can't do a conditional approval. We have a board member that's also requested to defer. So there's a motion on the table and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
I'm going to say aye.
Yes, I'll say aye also.
The motion is carried to defer.
Right.
So
I'm very
can
sorry.
I add to that? What I was getting at was that I don't think we're saying yes or no on the loggias. I think we're asking for some further ideas. We offered some concepts and you didn't seem to like any of those. So bring us back another concept. All we're asking, at
I
least,
think the lodge is a great idea.
I do too.
But
I
we're
don't have another
being
concept for
asked
the
to
lodge.
make it a considered significant plan today because there's a time schedule
Yeah.
that the applicant has, but that is not our purview. Our purview is to make the right decision about the historic significance of the application. It's a very nice application. It just needs more time.
Okay, I'm sorry to hear that, because I think it sounds like the loggias may not need to do, because I have no other option. It's either that or it's not. And what I'll be doing is presenting the same loggia again next time I come here. And I do not want to waste your time or my time or my money. So, the next presentation may be different as far as the storefront goes, but the loggia is going to be the loggia.
I don't know why you would make that assumption though, that the loggias are off the board. plan.
Because initially somebody said you could partially allow me to do that, which would have helped me take that risk and continue construction. Right now, the risk is added to me where I'm not going to go forward with that construction, which is going to delay me probably by about 2 months. There's a season next year. I was hoping to be ready for people to perhaps buy them. This now takes me into another season, so not only is it financially hurtful for delaying it, I'm going to be having carrying costs probably now for 2 years instead of 1 year. It has a huge impact for me. I'm not in that position to be holding financing for that long. I was anticipating 6 months of wait before I start construction.
I'll offer one more opinion on the loggias. One of the suggestions that was made was to put a bar across that would intimate the section that a window would have.
I would consider that if you would allow me an option to approve that tonight, to put that across if that is an impact.
The board has voted.
I'm very sorry for that. Thank you very much.
New business C, application for modification to certificate of appropriateness to add screening to an existing front porch on a single-family dwelling at 524 Jefferson Avenue. Applicant.
Good evening, I'm Jim Granger, and my wife Kim and I are requesting permission to request approval to modify our existing certificate of appropriateness, put screen on our house. So we've always intended to put screen on the front porch on the house. When we originally appeared before the board, we did not realize that the diagram, the elevation drawing did not have the screen on it. We presented the elevation with the screen on it when we closed on the construction loan and then applied for the building permit. And in December, went through the process. It was pointed out to us that Zach was notified that we didn't have the screen in there, so we are back to requesting the screen. There are 4 dwellings with a front screen porch in the 500 block of Jefferson. The board approved a front screen porch for a house in the 600 block of Washington just last year, and we're requesting to put screen on, as has been part of the original plan.
I have not seen the original drawing of the original elevation.
It's exactly the same as.
Does it show these columns here and the cross piece there?
The staff reports indicate you're proposing to have the screen placed on the outside of the architectural element.
Yes.
That is correct.
And that's for predominantly for safety of the screen, because we have 2 dogs that will be out on the porch. We want to keep the dogs off of the screen. Also, we have a granddaughter that we hope to see at some point in time, and we expect that she will either be running into it or riding some type of, little trike or something out on the porch and running into it. And the screen is basically, you can see the railing and everything else very, very clearly. As a matter of fact, I have pictures. I didn't include in the original, but of a screen porch that was completed just last November over at 106 Monroe. If you'd like to see those, that shows screen on the outside and the rails clearly visible. I have some of those if you'd like to.
This screen use though, this is pretty tough stuff.
I don't know, or I believe it to be stronger than the regular stuff. However, I've watched our overly enthusiastic dogs do damage to a bunch of different things, so I'd rather not take my chances on it, especially at the cost. I'd like to see. These are just pictures of the one at 106 Monroe with the screen on the outside, and you can barely tell that it's there. And this was taken from a range of about 12 feet.
However, you also show the house on Washington with the screen porch. This is the same builder.
Yep.
This screen I find very difficult to see through. I think it really stops the eye, and I've always felt that way. So are you saying that this is what your screen is going to look like, or this is what your screen is?
Saying that that was the one I showed you from 106 Monroe, because our screen is later.
I'm not sure whether the screen is on the inside or the outside.
On this one?
Is the issue. I mean, I know that it complies with our town code, but the historic district guidelines says open front porches.
There are numerous front screen porches, front screen porches all over town. There, like I said, there are 4 within our block. There's one on the next block over. I can go through town.
I
and just
can't
count them
argue
all.
with you, there's been a lot of inconsistency over the years, but the purpose of convening a preservation committee and looking at the plan and working together with our town is to have consistency and strength. And as much as I like an applicant or an applicant's particular design of a house, it's not do I think it will look good or I don't think it will look good or 4 other houses on the street have it. It is our duty to go to the guideline and say, is this application in line with the guideline? And the original application that came to this board was approved without a screen porch. And last month, we had an applicant down the street who came to ask for a screen porch. And this board said it's not consistent with the guidelines and the application was not approved. So in the interest, this is just what I'd just like to state that to take subjectivity out of the equation.
But other boards before this board approve it. And they're all over town. You've got plenty of front screen porches. There is not like they're just a couple. There are 4, like I say, there are 4 within our block. There's one on the other. I can go count throughout town. There are numerous front screen porches.
We can't speak to that. We don't know if they were approved or not approved at this time.
But it's consistent with the character of the town. And that's why the staff recommended approval. That's why other people said it looks good to them, and that's why they supported us and wrote in letters to the board.
But how did the other board members see it?
I mean, it's really not a subjective thing, it is about what the guidelines say, and the guidelines do say that. So, could I offer an alternative? What would you think about enclosing, and I'm not sure how this would apply either, but what if you enclosed the side of the porch with
Sir,
screening?
we designed the porch around the screen. I realize, for whatever reason, and we were new to this process and everything else back last July, that it did not get mentioned. It's been part of our plan from the beginning. I too, like Mr. Cree mentioned, have a significant allergy to mosquitoes. That's the key thing for it. We built the porch in the front with the character of Cape Charles in mind, to be out front with our neighbors. We didn't build the porch in the back. We said, hey, in Cape Charles, people are friendly. They sit out in front, invite people in to socialize, and that's why we designed it the way we did it. And
I'm just trying to help you find an alternative that fits into the guidelines, because they're specifically talking about the front porches, but I think it gives you a little bit of flexibility on the side porch.
Our staff recommended approval, let's ask him why.
The reason I recommended approval is because the guidelines do talk about the character of the street, and the other application that was previously denied, there were really no porches that were screened within a near vicinity of it, and there are multiple screened-in porches near this home. That was the reasoning from our recommendation.
Thank you. So let me ask you this. If the screening were approved, then there's the issue of it being the inside or the outside. Is there a way to sandwich that screening between trim so it appears to be on the inside and retains the architectural,
yeah, because
on the
it's
outside?
because again, we didn't realize that it wasn't part of the package, so the handrails were already in place, and so the handrails are set back. The handrails are set back on the columns.
Back from the face of it.
Right, back from the face. So the screen will be flush. It will not look like it's mounted on, mounted on the outside sticking out. It will be flush. Again, much the same design as the one I showed you there.
But the handrails will be on the inside of the screen.
Correct.
What would it do if you put the screen on the inside of the handrails?
Right now it wouldn't fit. I would have to take it out. There would be a bunch of holes. Again, we didn't realize this until we were like, seriously, it was the day before we were going to put the screen on. So the handrails have already been mounted on the inside, leaving room for the screen on the outside.
Let me read you the guidelines. Do not enclose porches on primary elevations. Avoid enclosing porches on secondary elevations in a way that radically changes the historic appearance.
Because again, with that historic appearance, because there's so many throughout the town, it looks like many other porches in town, some with the exact same construction that we've got. I mean, that's what we said, hey, if we weren't trying to do anything, when we looked at the design of the house, we were not trying to do anything radical out of character with the house. As a matter of fact, there's a similar house, a very similar house, an identical house. Diane's house is half a block down the street, and ours was based off her outstanding plant. And there's another one in town, identical, pretty much identical to that one as well. They didn't do a porch though.
The thing that I'm a little upset about on this is, to me, it is obvious the way this design shows that there was going to be a screened-in porch.
And that's what's on the video.
So, somebody missed that when this was being brought before us, as far as staff goes, by not saying, is this a screened-in porch? Or, nobody on the board said, is this a screened-in porch? And I feel like it's fairly obvious.
Open, the board approved it open.
Did they specifically say they approved an open?
The application was brought to the board, an open front porch.
Not the elevation. I'm not talking about what does the elevation look like. Is there somewhere in writing on the original?
I don't know, it wasn't there.
Yeah.
Maybe Zach can say it.
When it first came across that this was happening and I looked into it, I looked at the minutes, listened to the actual recording, and there was no mention on the application or within discussion about the screen porch. I also wanted to mention the enclosed aspect, because I did see that as well. And the question is, what is exactly enclosed means? And that's up to y'all's discretion. But
that is, whether it's completely enclosed or enclosed with screen.
And of course, there's different grades of screening. Some are more transparent than others. And I would say that if we were trying to screen in a way that would be consistent with keeping an open look front porch, the more transparent the screening could be.
And that was our intent as well, because we wanted to screen the protection against the bugs, which are pretty brutal in town. We did not want to be cut off from our neighbors. We did not want this to be a sun porch or something hard. We wanted it to be open and bug proof.
Make your comments out loud. Make your comments out loud.
Well, I'm looking at the Monroe example, and it appears that at that location, the screening is outside the railing, but not outside the porch posts and
Correct.
those elements.
Correct. And ours is the same exact way. It's not outside the posts.
Differently than the 628 Washington example, where the railings are also outside the screen. So, another possible interpretation, but unfortunately it doesn't apply here, would be if your porch were close enough to the ground to where you would not require stairs, you could say there would be no railing required on that type of porch, but that's really not the case.
No, the porch sits up above the house.
The Monroe example is potentially in that direction, but not precisely, that either.
I think I could only approve screening if it was inside the railings.
Did
Mr. Wells have any comments on this?
Did not.
If there's no more discussion, you can make a motion.
I make a motion, we approve 524 Jefferson Avenue for screening on the existing front porch to be placed inside the railings and the columns, and that the screen be as clear as possible.
Yes, transparent.
Okay, transparent as possible.
Is there a second?
I'll
Roll call it.
second that.
Okay, we have a second. All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Motion is carried.
Thank you.
Application for certificate of appropriateness to construct an addition on the rear of a single-family dwelling and replace existing vinyl at 623 Jefferson Avenue.
The man representing Mr. Watts.
Oh, Mr. Mayor.
Oh.
A couple of questions. So, there's vinyl, when I look by the house, there's vinyl on the existing house. The original siding obviously is under there, because you can see with the two porch posts missing, you can see the wood vinyl. So, again, the guidelines would call us for, if we take that siding off, that we would want to preserve the wood underneath it rather than putting more vinyl over the top of it.
Okay.
Then I think the material on the addition would, by the guidelines again, need to either be wood or hardy plank.
Okay.
And then we don't have any window details on the addition.
Basically, 1/1 windows, they'll be vinyl window. Just like the ones that are in the house now. They're not vinyl, but I mean, they're 1/1.
So he's saying he wants to put vinyl siding on this garage, 30 architectural singles, white 444 vinyl trim, cement block, stucco foundation. Thermal true vinyl with white trim windows and white steel 2-panel door on the rear. Is that enough information? That we
It's
know what he
limited
wants?
information, but it's also very clear that it's not consistent with the guidelines,
Okay.
even with the limited information.
No, I agree.
Do you, if you need more information, then
No,
we
I'm-
can discuss that.
I don't know that I do. Do you?
I have one other question. So the deck on the back is less than 30 inches off the ground, right?
Yes.
So it doesn't need a handrail?
Doesn't need a handrail at all.
Okay, can we leave the handrail off?
Yep.
Because I think what the guidelines want us to try to do is have decks, porches, that sort of thing, mimic the early materials as best we can.
Okay.
Decks are not really common on the original houses, so I think the guidelines want us to accommodate people with decks, especially on the rear of the house, but anything we can do to make it look a little bit better, and if it doesn't require a handrail, not having a handrail on it, I think it makes it look less like a deck built on the back of the house.
Okay.
What about the lattice on the base?
Is it
Yes,
wood
they're all together.
or vinyl?
Yeah.
It can be wood.
It can be wood. So we
Is
have
that-
need to defer this till we can see a new elevation with the revised materials? Is that
Well-
what you're suggesting?
No, I mean, I think we could defer until we have window details and how the trim on the windows is going to be done. And say that if the existing vinyl is removed, then the wood has to be restored, and there has to either be wood or.
He's not requesting the vinyl be removed, right?
No, I'm not requesting it be removed. I'm just basically putting vinyl on the addition.
On the addition,
Because
the
the
house just
existing
got.
already, the home already has vinyl on it.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, I may be mistaken, but I
Yeah.
thought I read that
The allegation does state that they're
It says-
replacing the vinyl.
Yeah.
It does say to replace the vinyl. It says to replace existing vinyl.
Well, you know what we could have used, maybe? Photos. Okay.
There's a reference to the foundation for the addition being a cement block with a stucco finish. And the existing house has brick piers.
Yes.
And an open foundation. So there's a visual difference, obviously, in that part of the exterior facade as well. Was there a reason for the enclosed foundation versus one that matches the existing?
Generally, it's there to keep varmints out from underneath their home and also to, protect the house itself.
But
And also,
there's
if
no
you-
indication of doing anything with the existing house foundation. So the end result, as it's described, would be a visual difference between the addition foundation and the existing.
Do you have full plans?
Yes.
Full plans with notes with materials and specifications?
Yes, right now,
We may need to see those in the future.
What if, in this particular,
Mr. Planner? You have a
no.
board member? Oh, you want to ask him something?
What if he took the foundation and rather than, and laid it in brick and made piers and then stepped a curtain wall in between the piers back so that the piers sort of, it looks like piers, but he has, I understand the desire, I think, from all kinds of standpoints of enclosed foundation. And I think that we do see enclosed foundations in town. So if you follow what I'm saying?
Well, but we also see the brick piers with a recessed panel of some detail.
And that's what I'm talking about.
To keep things out.
You follow what I'm saying? A pier that sits proud, and then the brick panel sits back from it so that it appears that the foundation is on piers, but it's been filled in between those piers.
I understand what you're trying to achieve there, yes.
So, I mean, there are many examples where the panel between the piers is not brick, it's even other materials.
That's another option.
Well, I thought,
Like the lattice detail you were showing for the deck is one recessed panel detail that exists in other locations between brick piers.
Right.
I thought there was only two things that the foundation could be of. One was brick
It's a brick or stone.
Brick or stone.
The historic guidelines actually specify against partial, even though it's a repeat material for construction of a panel in the historic guideline.
But if you did the brick piers and then the setback,
With a wood lattice?
is that,
It's compliant.
yeah, I mean, is that considered?
Yes, that's compliant.
What was that?
If you did brick piers with a recessed panel and wood lattice, that's totally compliant and it's in character with the neighborhood.
Or could it be a solid panel?
It could be a sub.
Yeah. So
But I
that you can
think we
ensure.
can't make that, we can't make an approval tonight.
Right.
Yeah.
I think what we're trying to do is offer you some ideas.
Right, and that's why I'm trying to make that so that,
Yeah.
if you do come back, I can make sure I'm complying with what y'all decided.
Yeah.
Try to make this no more than 2 steps rather than 4 steps.
Right.
Right.
I'm sorry this is painful, but
Well, that's what we're here for, to resolve the issue, so we can comply with what y'all want.
And whatever you would decide between the piers, could you do that also on the deck? Because if you did lattice on the deck, that would be great.
I can use lattice, the wooden lattice on the
Or-
deck as well.
But if he does a wood panel, then I would rather see a wood panel on the deck, just because I think it would.
Keep it consistent.
Yeah.
Visual consistency, I think, would be desirable.
So whichever way you want to go,
you
just
say
like to
it's
see.
revealed in the wood siding.
guess the two options are remove the wood siding or leave the vinyl that's on it.
Okay.
Or, and then on the addition, I think the guidelines would call for hardy plank or wood. I think that's the only two.
That's the only choice we have at this time.
Well, they do say a material similar to hardy plank. That's, hardy is really a brand, or the Boral wood is another product out there somewhere.
Yeah, there's a lot of different, right. As long as it's not a vinyl.
Right.
Or any type of composite.
And that goes for the trim materials too.
Right.
And for some reason I had a note about the door. Was there
Me
some?
too, yeah,
Was
on the
there something
first floor,
specific
there's
written about the
a
door?
double door here, like French doors or
That's
something.
this, yeah, that's the back elevation.
No, this says,
Well,
oh, I see what you're saying.
That's the back.
No, this says front.
Well, that's not really a front elevation, that's a section through the house looking toward the back wall.
Right.
Where the French door
That's
is.
basically what that is.
That's a mislabel.
Yes, it
It
is.
means the front of the house is invisible.
Right, now I understand.
It's straight through to
You
the
just
back
cut it
elevation.
down the middle and look, yeah, well, that's not the front elevation. Okay.
So it's also 623 instead of 625.
I think, in the future, proper plans are helpful.
Yeah.
Proper plans with callouts and specs for the architectural elements.
I think I just made a note that there was a door there. I don't think I have a question.
So, any more discussion? Do we have more?
I'm sorry, what did you say, Karen?
I said, I think I just made a note to myself that there was a door back there. And I didn't have a specific question about the door. I was referring to my notes.
Okay.
Is there any more discussion? Do we have a motion?
A motion to defer until the applicant provides additional details about the foundation and the siding and window trim details.
And deck trim.
Okay, we have a motion on the table to defer this application, requesting that the applicant return with specific details on the foundation, the siding, the window details, the deck details, in compliance with the guidelines. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Application for certificate of appropriateness to construct a deck on the rear of a single-family dwelling and to construct a two-story accessory structure at 532 Jefferson Avenue. Tell us who you are.
I'm David Giannini, I'm representing MLT Enterprise. Did you receive a copy of the blueprint for the
We have,
attached building? Okay. I have a full set of plans as well, if you need to see those.
I don't,
okay.
yes, there is.
So this is on the back deck. And then you're building,
Yeah.
off the back deck, you're building this accessory dwelling.
Well,
This garage.
on the property.
Right.
It's-
Right. Right. Revisit this property.
Yeah.
Accessory structure is set back in the
Right.
backyard.
When we first came before the board, the rear deck had been physically drawn. I was asked questions, and I said, we'll probably do a 12 by 12 deck, which ends up being 15'6" by 12, so, within all the setbacks.
This doesn't really include any details on the railing portion of the deck.
It's under 30 inches.
I made a hand sketch.
Yeah, but as long
Well,
as.
she has it right there.
And codes have approved it.
I'm just thinking about the
It has
design
no-
of the railing.
Yeah.
or-
Well, it's just a
It's in
standard
the
deck
back.
railing that you see everywhere.
We're gonna have a purview on that.
Yeah.
But it's also under 30 inches, right? The hammer.
The only thing we really have purview on is the accessory
You call for, it's called for
building,
20.
garage, and
Right. From the deck to the ground. And on the lowest spot, it's a little higher. The lot slopes slightly.
But if it's under 30 inches, would the applicant have a problem with doing away with the right?
Well, they might not have a place to set their drink. I mean,
Think they
if you
can
want to be honest about it, I mean, sure, it could be done.
it's significant,
But,
it's not really significant, because it's sandwiched between the two buildings, and it is not from the view of the street.
You can't even see it, to be honest.
That's what we're discussing.
Yeah.
Yeah, right, because we were trying to stay as, aesthetically pleasing at the front.
That's the way I
As
do it.
we actually preserved, against my wishes, the front porch roof and the main roof. And,
Fence in the back?
excuse me?
Are you putting a fence in the back?
No, that's the neighbor.
The neighbor's not putting a fence?
Yeah, it was already there. It was damaged when the storm came through and knocked a bunch of trees down. It just took a big tree completely through that fence.
It's purely.
And I believe he's in the process of repairing that right now.
It does.
But that fence was there. We
Right.
did not do it.
I guess my bigger question is about the garage.
Okay.
And being consistent with the guidelines. You're not gonna ruffle your feathers to say.
Well, no, because I'm
that the
prepared for that.
materials-
The vinyl siding, that's a miscommunication. That is not the intention.
Okay, so what material is this garage gonna be made out of?
Well, everything else, the siding, the intention would be to do a board and batten look on that. But you've
A board
seen
and batten
around.
look, or board and
Well, I mean,
batten?
it's actually board and batten, sure, but
Isn't that against the zoning? I think it calls for horizontal siding on
I'll have to look. I can check that for you, Will.
And the drawing, of course, is
Horizontal.
Sign.
I'm drawing it
Yes.
horizontal.
it. So what would the material be?
well, the obvious choice would be hardy to match to the house. So,
The house is vinyl.
no, it's not. It's
Sorry?
hardy plank, yes.
Oh, cool. So I guess we just need to see the application with the revised material.
Or could, if we're okay with
Conditionally
it, approve it conditionally.
Yes.
Conditioning on the side not being bound.
And what about windows?
Well, once again, the architect plugged in his, one size fits all thing. The windows we have now have no panes at all. They're, one over one clear, exactly. So if we were in the now maybe they thought they would add some style points with that.
See, this.
But they didn't have to come before the board, did they? No. So, I mean, I'm here with the notes, ready to,
Because the plan is consistent with design in the historical district. The horizontal siding is consistent. The only thing we're talking about changing is the material from vinyl to cement, fiberboard, or wood. Is that
What,
right?
the same board and batten?
Is that not
Board and batten
allowed?
is not consistent with the
Okay.
materials.
how about on the gable only as an accent?
But there are, you could look at the guidelines, I can open them and show you, there are.
Well, I'll
There are
trust you.
suggestions there for gable accents,
Okay,
like
but we
there are
possibly
fishtails,
could do that.
shingles, there are all sorts of things.
Because there's some homes here that recently were built that have the board batten look in
So
the
if we're
gable.
changing the design in any way, and not just the material, if the design's being
Well-
changed in any way, we would need to defer.
But it wouldn't be
until
a
we could have-
design change, no, but it would still have the gable, but
Well, if you're talking about using a different material than is
oh, then that's
specified in
design,
this
well,
application.
that's more of a dressing, not a real.
And the historic district is all about dressing.
Right, well, I think it would be nice, because I mean, just a little bit of variation, let it be
I think it
styled.
would be nice too, let's see it.
Well, I'm just saying, would it be acceptable? Because I'll have them draw it.
Have a look.
I'll have them have a look,
And
I don't
read.
do that part.
the guidelines.
Well, we
Use
have a
your
staff member
creativity.
here.
Well, sure.
And
You can
if it's
call him.
consistent with
Well,
other cable access.
Tell Mr. McCoy to look over the guidelines and find something consistent.
And look around.
And he may say just do siding all the way, because that would be fine.
Yes.
Okay.
What did, I'm just curious now, what did it say?
It says vertical plywood siding, should not be permitted, is not permitted.
At all, period.
It's
No
all-
T111, no more than that.
Okay.
Right, well, it would be a hybrid, you know, you just put the T111 and just put a strip over it to give it the appearance. The faux board and that.
So when you do come back with that, be sure you show us how these windows are gonna be trimmed. Are they
Sure.
gonna have-
Would it be acceptable to have no grids?
I think that falls within the guidelines, yeah.
A true 1/1 is fine.
It's fine, because if you do go to grid territory, I've heard the, you know, I was here, so. Okay.
Yes, it must be painful.
And then how about the garage door? What, this
Um,
doesn't really show us much about.
Well,
It's a
right,
garage
it's,
style door.
right, it would have the
But this drawing.
the appearance of the
That it's a
carriage.
sliding door, well, no.
Well, no, that's just an application, on it would still just be a traditional regular
Roll-up
door, nothing-
door.
right,
It's just gonna have
roll-up
this
door. It would
sliding.
have that trim package on the outside to give it a carriage house appearance.
So just know that when we're looking at it, we're gonna wanna know what your trim materials are, how the windows are trimmed out, and the siding material and the cornice, but all this.
We would pretty much follow the home that is there, so they would need to know exactly that.
Right,
Yeah.
just remember.
In detail,
If you can use the hardy style materials for your trim, but not the AZAC stuff. That's a synthetic.
even if it's painted,
It's a synthetic material.
but
At this time, that's what we.
in this environment, the maintenance requirements for, you know, anything else is outrageous. And if you're looking for the appearance to be, you know, I know if you see it, it's
We're just
plastic.
following the guidelines.
I understand, but I'm trying to, help with that process. Maybe they can be changed or modified.
But then we wouldn't have a historic building with.
Well, no, I mean, we still have that, but you could say, okay, it has to look historic, you can use this material, but you have to make it look like it was.
So the elevations are showing 6/6s, but you're saying you're gonna do 1/1s.
Well, I'm saying we could, and I would probably recommend that.
Anything that you want to change needs to be in the new.
I understand.
regulations.
Yeah, because
Correct.
whatever we approve is what it
Yeah,
has to be.
whatever you pass, it has to be, that's what you have to do. You can't come back and say, oh, you know what, we found this great deal, and, you know,
Yeah.
that's not gonna work, I understand.
Do you have a motion?
Just one
More questions?
quick thing related to revised information that's submitted. The site plan drawing has the garage orientation shown incorrectly.
Does?
Meaning the garage is 18 feet wide where.
He's already got a variance, I think. So
No, it's just simply physically what this site plan drawing indicates. The garage door is only 18 foot, not.
It's on the alley side, correct.
This
Yeah.
rectangle.
So it can have off-street parking and a private area for.
And the ridge line runs the long axis, not the short axis. That's just a minor little
Yeah.
detail.
Oh,
You're
well.
right, it's important though.
You see what I'm getting at?
Because I didn't,
The garage door is on the shorter side, and so actually this rectangle rotates 90 degrees on this plan diagram, and then the ridge is running the long axis, not the short axis.
right, the ridge should be running this
No,
way.
the ridge is running the long axis. If you look.
Yeah, but
Well, no, I see a ridge line here.
Well, that's what I'm saying, that's not correct. What I'm saying
Well,
is, this drawing needs to have, the rectangle needs to be rotated 90 degrees to comply with the
Okay, this way.
physical drawings for the.
Right.
It's they're inconsistent.
They're just not consistent, yeah.
Okay, well.
So you want your garage doors
What
on
I'm
the
saying is.
outside?
On the alley
Yes,
side,
yes.
correct.
Yes, okay, well, the alley side is 18 feet wide, not 24 feet wide. still hasn't said.
Oh,
That, just on this simple.
right, he must
It
have
just
done
simply-
that.
Yeah,
Sure.
it just simply, but then the other is that the ridge line needs to run the long axis, not the short axis. Because the ridge runs the long axis.
You're right.
That's all it
That's
is.
an
It's
oversight.
just-
And it has to be documented as such,
It would be
or it will be
appropriate.
open to interpretation, which we don't want that.
Thank you.
It's a change.
Want to make a motion? More conversation?
Well, the main concern I have right at this moment is to be able to construct that deck and complete it. And, you know, obviously we have to wait in the garage.
You know, in the future, would it be good for these people to make separate applications? One application for a deck and one application for a garage?
So sorry.
Well,
No, I mean, would it make sense?
It would. I specifically told them that they could do it this way because they had already gotten approval for the house, and so it was a modification. And I just told them to go submit it as a one process rather than two different applications. And that can be something, if you guys would like to see it otherwise, I can definitely.
So we have no way at this point to approve the deck separately.
well, there was verbal approval at the last meeting, that's why they were like, sure,
Yeah.
you know, but it wasn't drawn.
Just asking procedurally wise.
It would be proper to see the deck specifications done the same way the plans are for the other building. Not, not a hand sketch. Detailed specifications, call outs to them.
Well, it's very simple, it's just a, you know, deck with treated materials.
I get it.
I mean, and it was already given tacit approval at the last, so I was
I'm
under
not saying
assumption
you're
that we
approving, I'm
would
saying in the
approve,
future.
that it wasn't, I understand. And I say, I proceeded with the thought that, hey, this isn't an issue, but it became one, and that's when I was like, okay, we will come before the board and.
The deck is really not something that you are seeing either from the street, the side, or the back alley. It's not really our purview to weigh in on the way the deck looks. If it is structurally compliant to what the town requires,
Well, that's the building department.
that is not, yes, that is not our
But we
say.
still have to approve it because it's
So,
being built.
we
in
can-
this ordinance. Yeah, so
Mm.
unfortunately,
So how do we separate
procedurally
the
wise,
application for decision in this case?
tonight.
This is kind of it was already
Yeah.
a little bit of old business in my view from before when there was another board here. I understand it's a new board and the way forward would be.
I can discuss on that. So their former application said with the possibility of a 12 by 12 deck or whatever it said, and that was approved. But that there's no design, there's no nothing. I was involved with that, so I was like, no, that does not count as an approval. You're coming back to the board for this approval.
I could leave the handrails off and then it would be, that'd be fine with
Ultimately,
me.
it's all part of this application. It's not,
Yeah, that's-
it's not
that's
a
the
complete
problem
application,
that
so
we're asking.
we have to defer the
Well,
application.
Now I'm gonna have a big problem, but I guess that's my problem.
And I feel, I do feel for you in that regard, but we need to go by the procedure.
Now, I'm not
Do we have-
asking
do
for
we have any
special
other
treatment, I just thought that
comments or
this was something
suggestions,
that
or?
had already been approved, but I was informed otherwise.
What is it about the roofing material? Roofing material we specified by the board?
Roofing.
It says here on the staff recommendation.
I think what they were I didn't see roofing material listed. I believe I didn't see roofing material listed on your application. It says seal-proof roofing shingles
It
as
just says
selected.
vinyl siding roofing shingles. Doesn't say what material the roofing shingles are.
Well, they would be the lifetime architecture, not.
So if I was,
Shouldn't just say it.
if I was reviewing this, if y'all had approved it, I wouldn't know what I would be approving as
Correct.
a final product.
we do need, we really need,
I
you
mean,
know.
I think we agree with you. I think we were just hoping to separate the deck from the garage, but it doesn't seem like we could do that.
Our hands are tied.
Yeah. Do you feel any other way about our ability to do that?
So there were no previous deck specifications approved on the last application. So in this entirety of this application, it's not complete and it's not compliant,
Right.
unfortunately. I'm sorry that it slowed you down.
It's even under new business.
If we had a motion that said we would approve a conditional, we would provide approval contingent on specifications and drawings being specific for the building in the back, but the deck was approved, is that possible?
Was there any way you would not approve the deck? I mean, I know it's procedural, but I'm just saying, is there any way that we could, you could say, hey, you
One
can't
thing
ever
that
have a
Bill
deck?
mentioned is that the deck might not even need approval, so you could go that route.
I mean, we've tried our best
Your
to
opinion.
follow every rule.
Is that-
I mean,
that's
we
not one of the
preserve
things
things in the house.
So the guidelines state that if it's viewable from a public right of way, it has to be approved by the board. If you all determine that it's not viewable by the public right
Well,
of way,
that's
then
what I'm
that's your,
saying. We
yeah.
can defer the application on the garage.
And just
We
say that.
we are not going to
Yeah.
rule on the deck.
Yeah.
Because
You
it's not, we're not
Because
doing
it is
it.
not,
Right.
it is not.
So he can go ahead with the
Okay,
deck.
so let's
As
try
long
that.
as
Let's
He
try that.
can take that up with them.
Well,
Okay.
no, he has to get a building permit and all that, but I mean, as far as we're concerned,
And
we're
that's
not
fine.
gonna stop him on the deck,
We're not saying anything about
on the deck.
Oh,
No,
okay.
yay.
And he doesn't have to come back to us if on the deck.
It's not seen by the
Okay.
street,
Building
or the
garage,
alley, it's
I
not on a
understand
corner.
Okay. I
As
like
long
it.
as it meets building codes, it really isn't part of the historic
I like
district review board.
I think you're right. Okay. Let's do, how do we do that in a motion?
So,
It's just a plain deferral.
we're gonna defer the application, and when you get it again, it will not have a deck in it, and that will be up to him to take it to the town.
It would be
He's
just
bringing
a-
us a new set of plans and
Okay.
specifications for what he wants to do in the rear of this house.
With the
And
garage?
I imagine it will be a garage properly sited.
It'd be
With
almost
proper
exactly
dimensions.
like that with the
Okay,
proper
I see.
orientation, and it will be specific on the siding material, the roof material, the exterior finishes.
Okay.
And it would still be like a turned down slab.
Can I ask you this question?
Yes.
How soon were you planning to build this garage?
Well, they want it as soon as possible.
Of course.
Of course they do, so.
Because at this point, if we defer, we
Mhm.
still need to wait 30 days. If we can deny the application in its entirety, then you can bring a new application for the garage to us
Mhm.
and deal with your debt with the town.
Right, so you just completely say,
Well, it has inconsistent elevations.
It's gonna be the same
The
amount of
plans
time.
are wrong, and you're changing the materials. I'm just throwing it out
What's,
there.
I'm not following, what's the difference between deferring and
I'm actually following, because what you're saying is it's gonna take the same amount of time regardless of which way he does
Is that correct?
it, for our approval.
And it's cleaner,
Actually,
and we have separated out.
denial is denial, meaning if they come back, they'll be coming back with a whole new plan. Or if you deny it, then they can, if they don't like your decision, they can appeal to the town council.
but if you defer it, then no
But if you
decision's really
defer
been
it,
made.
no decision.
So you're cleanly just going, I'm done, and then I come back and there's no deck on this one, just the garage.
Well, just also to say, in the minutes, because they have mentioned, it will say that the board said that the deck was not within street view. So
Yes.
So that removes
that
the
takes care of the deck,
requirement of an approval by the historic district review board.
So that gets you the ability to get your deck built.
so there.
Yeah.
I feel it's
So now,
So we are going
if you
to
were to
defer.
defer it, then he would come back with, it'd be just an application for the structure.
But if it is a lot of changes, like you all are talking about,
It
it
has
is best considerable amount of change, it is best to deny and then come after the new application.
I think the cleaner way to do this is to deny the application and ask for new application from this board, just for the structures that are relevant to historic district review. You'll need plans with specifications and correct your conflicting plans, right? And then your materials have to reflect the guidelines. Does somebody want to put that in the form of a motion?
So you're saying though that denying it in that way where there's no reference to the deck whatsoever?
Yes, we are denying this application.
Oh, if we deny it, all we do is deny it.
All
We
you do
don't
is
make a
deny,
motion.
you don't do.
We just make a motion to
You
deny.
can make a motion to deny, not to put anything.
Yeah.
And for him to feel safe, it is going to say in the minutes that we felt the deck was not lit up.
That's right.
So
Excellent.
you will not be referred to the HDRB for the deck.
All right, I think we need to deny it.
Make a motion to deny.
Do we have a second on the motion to
I'll
deny?
second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Application for certificate of appropriateness to construct a new single-family dwelling at 210 Bay Avenue. Applicant present?
You might want to defer.
Hi,
Hi, can you introduce yourself for the record, please?
my name is Jim Schneider from Hartford.
Thank you.
Jim or Tom? Jim?
Jim, yeah. Yes. So I trust you've got my application. Questions?
I have a couple questions.
May I, before you start questions, perhaps one general comment? Okay, this house will be located between three existing older homes that are each a two-story with visible roof form and a fully brick exterior.
Okay.
So my basic question when I looked at the design for this is it varies dramatically from that neighborhood, that block frontage. And so that's really my main concern with this particular application is it seems to be incompatible with that, and I think the guidelines portions that we need actually looked at are the pages 21 and 22 relative to that concern that I'm expressing. That portion of the guidelines is the portion that addresses the planning new construction or additions, where on those 2 pages of information in the guidelines, there are a number of references such as design new buildings to be compatible with size, scale, proportion, and form of surrounding buildings. I don't see this design complying with that. Design the proportion of the proposed new building's front facade to be compatible with the front facade proportioning of surrounding existing historic buildings. That, to me, just really says that what this is proposing is not complying.
Agreed.
Excuse me, Madam Chair. Edward Wells, the absentee board member for new business section 6F, he said, I would request more time to review. And that was the end of his comments.
Well, do we need, I'm sure
All
I'll
I
let you
just,
need.
all I
We
need
don't
is
say
he's entering his
comments.
comment into the record.
Yeah,
We don't
I
have our
understand.
comments.
Might I make a comment? This is one that's still up for review with the zoning, is that correct?
Yeah, we discussed, it's, the zoning code states 2.5 stories and up to 40 feet in height. And so it's unclear in the zoning ordinance as to what constitutes 2.5 stories. But
It's really up to them, I mean, for our purposes. This is
I guess where I was going with that was that, is there really a point in us laboring a whole lot over this until the zoning is approved or not?
No, it's up to offer guidance at this point,
Yeah,
that
I
once
agree
the
with that.
zoning is approved,
I agree with that, yes.
some of the things here are not consistent with the neighborhood, like you just pointed out.
I certainly agree with that. I'm just been one of these.
And that's, I think, the intent. When we discussed the intent of this one for the applicant was to get a feel for what you guys are feeling for the design. If y'all feel that that is not within the time, timely for you guys or a good idea, you can definitely refer it.
Our discussion really was, that I personally built a 3-story home in the Yarmouth district. So I understand that this doesn't, that just because the zoning ordinance wasn't adhered to before, doesn't mean we don't continue to adhere to it. But in our discussion, it was for you to decide on the actual design, not the zoning ordinance, that we could work on that independently. It would make more sense to stay on the agenda to discuss whatever else we could accomplish independent from that.
So we don't have a Dutch gable front end elevation
Yeah, that
on that road. The gambrel roof.
Well, I'm not sure the gambrel roof form fits within the guidelines.
No, we do
Well, I'm sure it
have
does.
gambrel roofs in this town, but they're not side end elevations facing front. We see the front of the gambrel, not the end.
Yeah.
When we have gable end elevations, they're traditional A-frame.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the reason you're doing a gambrel roof is to get really a
More
full
head
story,
height. Right.
basically, right?
We usually
Because
have.
your footprint with a gambrel roof on the 3rd floor is the same as it is
Correct.
with an A-frame roof above the 3rd floor.
Right, I mean, it was really more than anything, just a way to, we actually thought it was going to be more appealing to you than just a regular gable, so that it wasn't, frankly, when we designed this, we knew nothing about the 2.5 story, it caught me totally by surprise, so we were not trying to design around that. The thought was that if that helped by continuing that through to help reduce some of the square footage and work with Zach and zoning to accomplish the 2.5 story, we would do that.
Yeah,
The other homes too are brick homes, from top to bottom, foundation to roof line. That's the vernacular on that structure.
might the owner consider brick exterior? Well,
How about a combination of brick and siding so that it blends in with both the brick buildings and the siding is way down the road?
Because I mean, there are siding.
The guidelines talk about what is seen from the street, as you walk down the street, how far down the sides you can see in the front. So, a good rule of thumb is 2/3 of the way back is usually about what you can see with the lot width size that we have in this.
And his house is set way forward.
There are some homes that mix materials for the bachelors and homes, as long as they're compliant with the guidelines.
So my question, I guess, is that, at some point on the avenue, we go from brick homes to a siding home. So does that become historically incorrect?
We can't look at the whole, you have to look in the context of, when an applicant comes, it's important to listen to the applicant's needs, but the purpose of the board is to take into consideration the neighbors that's standing as well, and the good of the whole historic district. If you read, and I know you said you're new to the process, if you read Section 8, and I had it here, I don't want to read it to you again, but it's to preserve the historic nature of the whole town. So if mistakes were made in the past, they were made in the past, there's nothing we can do about that. All we can do is try and maintain.
I'm not necessarily calling the transition from brick to siding as somewhere on the street a mistake. I referenced that from a three-story standpoint. I'm not saying that, I don't feel that transitioning somewhere from brick to siding is a mistake. I just think that it's, it's something that is there, whether it is, whether it's a mistake or not. It's just, if you are going to take what is there as the historical value, then we have to look at what's there. And if there are both siding and brick homes there, then I think that we have to consider that. That's
So where this home is being proposed, there would be 4 houses there. 3 of them are brick, and the width of their elevations is twice the width of this front elevation. So the amount of streetscape, pardon?
Right, but they're wider lots, that's.
Correct, but the amount of streetscape that you see in that section of town is all brick right now. And I understand the applicant's desire to use a more affordable material, but then that could potentially affect the property values of the homes next to it. But our purview is, how does it affect the historical nature, the vernacular of the homes that are on that stretch of street right now? And it changes it. It's a significant change to change the material. Something to consider.
So
Anybody else have comments about that?
Just one supplemental comment related to the gambrel roof form on the 3rd floor, which has the appearance that the front elevation indicates, but then when you look at the 2 side elevations, that gambrel roof form appears to be more of a facade treatment than a true gambrel.
Right, like I said, it was something that we chose not to mitigate anything. It was really just because we thought it was more historically correct. I mean, it's an 18th century English feature.
I understand that, but my point is the true original roof form would be one in which the steep pitched portions would continue 3-dimensionally along both sides of the house, and where the windows are would be a shallow shed-roofed dormer detail, not simply eliminating the steeply pitched portion of the gable roof. 3-dimensionally, that creates just a completely foreign look to any traditional or historic gambrel roof forms that you see anywhere else, because the roof form normally was what terminated the top of the building, and so it was continuous on the sides as well as.
And again, as we said in the beginning, until the issue of the 3 stories is solved with the town, we really can't make any decisions.
I agree with that, though. I think it's a facade dressing. I'd rather see a real form that mimics some of the design elements in true form to the buildings in town, rather than just a sort of a pasted on piece.
Well, like I said, we had already discussed, I already discussed exactly, we would carry that gambrel all the way through.
And I think you're still going to run into problems with that, because I mean, a gambrel roof that the gable end faces the street is just really odd.
It's a very narrow lot. I mean, there's just.
But just put a regular roof on it.
There are a lot of towns on narrow lots.
Yeah.
A lot of homes on narrow lots in this town. You
Right.
can draw some design inspiration from.
I don't have as much problem. I'm sorry. I don't have as much problem with the brick versus wood. I hear what you're saying, that there are 3 houses right next to them that have brick, but I think if you look down the street, there's a mixture of frame and brick buildings. I don't have as much of a design issue based on the way I look at the things, because I think 3 houses is a narrow space to look at. I think you have to look at a broader range of
There's still
buildings.
quite a few brick buildings, though.
There are. I would
I
agree
also,
with that.
I also,
And we
I
give
also
you this only
agree.
as design guidance.
Yeah,
We're
yeah.
not saying that we would legislate it has to be 100% brick. We're saying it needs to find a way, design-wise, to blend into the neighborhood.
And I don't think these, I don't know, you all can answer, but this is, I think these are sliding glass doors on the second floor.
There is, yes.
Is that,
Yeah.
do we have anything
I
against
think
that?
I wrote on asking, I think I wrote a question about asking about the sliding doors. Is,
And
aren't
the
there
third
sliding doors?
story,
in
the
front?
third
Yeah.
story balcony.
I think the guidelines would want you to have standard doors there. And I can just run down the list of the things that I saw, if that's helpful to you. I think we would want to see window shops and looking at the details of the windows. So we want to see what the sill detail is, because if you look at the guidelines again, what the guidelines want you to do is produce a sill that's thick and heavy at the bottom, that again looks like the other windows in the historic area. And we want to see the trim details that would match that as well. And then the siding, we've had so many, I can't remember now, but I think, do we have vinyl siding?
This was mine. And I brought samples that totally brings them
Well,
up.
I think you know where we stand based on the guidelines on that. That vinyl wouldn't be acceptable to wood or hardy plank material. Then this vinyl sliding doors, I did have that on the list too. And the same thing with the PVC brick mold, coil wrap on the trim. I think that needs to be wood or the Boral product. The post porches with the vinyl wrap on them, same sort of thing. And I think, you know, again, that needs to be wood rather than vinyl wrapped over. It's possible I picked up the wrong detail there.
Yeah, it might be, because,
I think it's in your description.
yeah, I know it's in the
I think at this point, we should provide it with amount of guidance, and we'll to see when it comes back, but we do need to have a motion.
Before we let this go, I'm looking at porches where it says full width, 1-story porches, and then the next thing says secondary porches.
Third story porches.
But there's no 3rd-story porch information on here at all, and it says here for secondary porches on the side or rear of the building. So it doesn't say anything about having more than 1-story porch on the front.
Again, something to familiarize yourself with the
Yeah.
guidelines before you return to the board with a new design.
I think we're all really committed to trying to really stick to the guidelines as best we can. And it'll pay anybody that comes to be really, really familiar with them. As you can see, we're thumbing through the
I
trying to be
understand
as
that. I
familiar as
guess,
possible.
you know, at the end of the day, you know, just like many that I walked in, are a little blindsided only because, you know, I've built homes in the historic district and have never been so scrutinized. So, you know, I think you need to, all I would ask is that while I understand your intent, that there's maybe a little bit of latitude offered as maybe a transition to say, hey, you know, we understand this has not been something that has been totally adhered to, but then to all of a sudden switch. These folks, as a builder, Sean was here, there are people here that are working for people who have now spent a lot of money and time and have been ready to move forward with something that all of a sudden now is being now looked at with an entirely different set of eyes. So that creates a little bit of a hardship for those folks. While I understand your role I think that there is, I think that at the end of the day, this is intended to be guidance and I think that there's a negotiation here a little bit. I think that, I'm certainly not going to argue and say, well, it has to be this or it has to be that. I mean, heck, I'm sitting here thinking that I've built 2 homes in the R1 zone that would have never passed this board.
Yeah, my house wouldn't have passed.
So I get that.
Well, we can tell you, and then we're gonna have to move on because it is getting to be a late hour. We can tell you there are a lot of conversations going on in the town right now about the process and the evolution of the historic district and the preservation commitment. And you and the people in your industry that have concerns are invited to speak up in your public forums. Attend the opportunities that are there to weigh in about it. We can't do it at the application period. This board can only rule on these applications with these guidelines at this time. We really can't debate here. This is not the forum. So we take your comments to heart, and we will use the information that people share in their application platform with us when we have our work sessions. But we have to use the guidelines that we have in front of us at this time to make decisions. So thank you for sharing, but we need to have more public comment in that appropriate slot. At this time, we need a rule on this application. So I'm going to call for a motion, please.
Do we want to deny? Yes, okay. Then I'll make a motion we deny this, which is 210 Bay Avenue.
There's a motion on the table to deny the application to 210 Bay Avenue.
I'll second.
There's a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, this last item we have is proposed changes to the historic district review board process, which I imagine will be a continuing conversation. And I only have one recommendation that I prepared for tonight, so I'll read it and then anybody else can read theirs. And it came up in the context of reviewing applications for this month. In page 54, under the section in the guideline for wood, I proposed a text change. Remove the words "consider using wood" to the text to read as "shall use wood" as the dominant cladding.
This is for processing, not for guidelines.
So this is different.
This is different.
Good,
That's
because I wasn't prepared
guidelines.
for the other.
I'll read.
This is for the process.
This is just what it goes.
Okay.
We can put the guidelines on the email.
Yeah.
So maybe you can
So
go.
is this where we
Yeah.
ask if we can schedule a work session in between our monthly meetings?
Yeah, this is, I think none of us would really have good input tonight at this point on this. Is there anything urgent here on this that has to be?
Well, we do have to vote on it now if we want to have a work session, right? Do we have to make a
Yes,
motion?
you can vote to have a work session on this item.
I would like to do that too.
I make a motion, we schedule a work session for this item.
Do we need to figure that out now, or?
I can put it out because we have other meetings and stuff, like I was telling you and I have other meetings that we have to be in.
Okay.
Does it matter? Does anybody have any feelings if the work session could be had after the applications have been received, or prior to, or for the purpose of discussing?
What's the work session for?
Guideline, that's what.
I specifically think that we need to have a work session regarding this specific, the process for the Historic District Review Board, some proposed changes to the Historic District Review Board, and then to spark a design guideline just almost an update, you know, and start that process of you guys as the board going through the guidelines, marking it up, making recommendations, coming together. We just dig through it, just like we're going to do with the comp plan almost, and come up with eventually a final product that we can all agree on.
So our next work session, or the one we're gonna have, would be only on this process flow.
It would be on this specifically, yes, yes.
And to update design guidelines.
And
or
this, yeah, to
discuss
start-
updates.
Yeah, to plan like a, kind of organize that as to how we can go about updating the guidelines.
We need to put that in the form of a motion. Price.
I make a motion that we schedule a work session to discuss these guidelines and the process.
Guidelines and process, or just process?
We're going to discuss the procedure related to updating the guidelines and also the procedures related to the review board that are listed here.
Okay,
So when do we
need
need
that to be more clear? How
Yeah.
are you?
I make a motion that we have a work session to discuss the last item on the agenda.
It needs to be public record. We want to be as transparent as
Yeah.
possible.
I wasn't
And
flipping.
people read the minutes, I know. But we want people to know that there's a work session going to happen.
Would
because
it,
they-
would it be appropriate to use the agenda title here, proposed changes to
Yes.
HR,
Yes.
HRB
So I would,
process?
yes.
Yeah, there you go.
Let's do
Yeah,
that.
okay.
Can I have a motion, please?
Well, we just need a second. You motion, so now we have a second.
Can you read it one more time?
Yeah, I'd like
To-
to read the
to-
words, not just the
yeah,
last item
to-
on the agenda.
I make a motion to schedule a work session on the proposed changes to the Historic District Review Board process.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
We have other items on the list.
Oh,
Really?
sorry.
Okay, they're gonna start calling us
Other
town
business.
council. Yeah.
Does anybody have other business?
I do have a question.
Sure.
We did come up with that question about where is the Harbor Area Review Board line on Mason, where is the harbor one, so did you find anything out?
They do overlap, so we've got, well, where we're at right now is we need to actually identify the historic district, the Harbor Area Review, Harbor Area Overlay District. We need to actually define that, because it's not on any of our zoning maps, and we need to go through that process, and we're going through that process currently.
Who would do that? What is the process?
The process would be a zoning, it would be a map amendment change, so we go through planning commission.
And how long would that take approximately?
At least 2 months probably. Actually, no, there's a recommendation by planning commission that goes to town council for final approval.
Would the staff make the recommendation as to where the overlay?
Yeah, so, yeah. Ultimately, the staff would make the recommendation to planning commission, or that staff would prepare a report to planning commission to make that recommendation.
Since there are two existing boards for each of those two circumstances, will it be necessary to eliminate a possible overlap? Or might an overlap still be
Yeah, I mean,
feasible?
I've got to look into that a lot more. Yeah, that's just a surface thing right now.
So currently, do they overlap?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it seems true, they overlap. Yeah.
Geographically, they overlap, but right now, only one board actually is empowered to make a decision about what happens on the Mason Avenue side, right?
Right.
And that's the HDRB,
Yeah.
is that correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, so on the Mason, on the
Both
harbor
sides.
side of Mason Avenue is
Does.
us.
Yeah, if you look at your
And,
map.
and it's always been considered the harbor area.
Okay.
So that's more of a discussion item.
Yeah.
I just wanted to open another discussion item. When we get the two, when we look to expand this board from 5 to 7, think it would be helpful for somebody from this board to be able to be part of the committee that goes through that process to discuss that. And to discuss, are those voting positions, are they non-voting positions, are they positions held by official members of town boards already or other citizens? So I'm putting it out there that somebody from this board might be included in those discussions, not the addition of the 2 members.
Sounds like a chairperson to me.
Some member, it doesn't really matter to me,
Yeah.
or not, I just feel like somebody from this board should be included in the discussion.
I think that's
Somebody
good,
on this board should be included in the preservation plan committee, subcommittee.
I agree with that too.
Yes, I asked the town manager about that, and he said that he has not even heard of it, and if there is one, he knows nothing about it, and it's not town related at all.
Okay.
What's that?
What?
He said that the preservation plan
Right.
committee or group, he said that that is not, he has not heard anything about that, and if there is a committee, or some people have decided to call themselves a committee, it is not town related
We
at
were
all.
told the subcommittee was going to be formed, so
He
if
said that
any such
Town
preservation
manager Larry
committee
Gray
gets
knew
formed.
nothing about it. I
Okay.
asked because I was asked.
There's
by
just a
you.
secret committee, I know.
Yeah.
They're like meeting in the basement or something.
That's
Well,
right.
good, if I don't know about it, I don't have to take minutes.
Oh, so you're behind it.
Yeah, that's what the last item that came up.
Conspiracy.
This was challenging tonight because we were doing things that were hard to do that haven't been done before in the interest of being consistent with the guidelines. And the guidelines will continually to be probably expand and change as the town expands and changes. I was approached by a couple of real estate agents in town through the course of my other business this week to talk about historic district changes, and they asked, could they be part of a charrette like the C&U people did for the town and the planning commission and the joint HDR planning commission meeting, Tom Hall from Christopher Newport University, and felt that it could help spread the understanding of the value of the historic district if members of the community that are in the housing industry, real estate agents, builders, contractors, could have a charrette directed towards that segment of town.
That costs money, and we have a purview of the grant and what we are paying them to do. They could have came and spoke. We've had plenty of public forums where they could come out and speak. And I know because we have both worked on the agendas and everything, so they could have, the first one that we had with the halls, that would have been the one they really wanted, they would have benefited from.
And
So
they
how
were
do we
going separate.
encourage education?
Yeah.
So how the process works for like any type of planning related matter is there will be charrettes. So what he scheduled last month was a joint work session to get the board members' ideas on paper and to facilitate that. There's going to be more meetings that they're going to facilitate that are open to the public, just like that first meeting was. This was just something different. And so it's really up to, I mean, we're going to get the word out as best we can, but it's going to be up to them to kind of stay on top of that too. You know,
I
we can
think
only
it
do
would
so
be
much.
helpful, public perception-wise, to have education surrounding preservation.
Definitely. And that's, they know that too, and that's part of their purview and what they've been hired to do.
We posted and it's on our calendar, when we have the Facebook page, it's there. I mean, we have plenty of places they can look. We even put paper agendas out, so.
I have a question too. Yes. How quickly can we change the name of this so that it doesn't say guidelines anymore? If we did nothing else, could we change that pretty quickly?
Other historic towns that I've been in call the bylaws.
I think that'd be fine too. But guidelines really does give the wrong idea, as we have seen tonight from several people.
Definitely work on that.
And as soon as one person brings it up, the rest of them bring it.
So do we want to, so where does that go, agenda-wise? Does that go in a public meeting or in a work session if we want to?
We can
Discuss
well,
that.
I think we should discuss that in the work session.
Okay.
That could be like our first move for the guidelines is to change the dates.
Yeah, along with other edits.
Yeah.
Work session number 2?
Well, that'll, yeah.
Okay.
We can discuss how to go through that process in the first work session.
I was on the board in Raleigh, and we used the word standard. That's what I was trying to think of, the standard, historic district standards.
Standards.
Sounds good too.
And I offer, it's a good idea to change it, but as far as the process recommendations, the town council should approve it, to have weight behind it. I don't care what you call it, without town council behind it.
But we understand that, but sir, I have to say, like I told Mr. Free earlier, public comments were in the beginning. I have to state that because I stated it for him.
So, yeah,
Can
so
we move on? Yeah.
what we're gonna discuss there is, it's really a top-down kind of movement, where we want historic district, we want y'all to look at it and have input. However, it's a top-down kind of thing from town council, initiating, hey, this, these reviews, the process needs to change and be looked at.
Right.
Maybe not change, but to be looked at.
We would request the town.
And-
But
we
you
want
can
your
give us
opinion.
input, definitely.
Yeah, you can get your input, and then it ultimately then goes to the town council, and then the planning commission, and back to town
And
council.
we can talk about that more in the
Yeah.
work session. Do we have any announcements? On Concord? Do we have any announcements relative to? No. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
I'm still there.
Second?
Yeah.
All in favor?